Rebecca Thornfield's face twisted with something beyond anger, beyond hatred, something that looked like pure satisfaction as she stood over 3 crying 8-year-old girls in the airplane aisle. Their purple dresses were torn. Blood ran down Naomi's knee. Simone's face was swollen from tears. Jasmine's voice had gone hoarse from screaming. The entire cabin had gone silent. Phones raised passengers frozen in horror. Rebecca leaned down, looked directly into Simone's terrified eyes, and with deliberate, calculated cruelty, she gathered saliva in her mouth and spat directly onto the child's face. The glob hit Simone's cheek and dripped down slowly. Time stopped. Then the cabin exploded. Because Rebecca Thornfield had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She had just assaulted the daughters of the woman who owned the entire airline. Before we dive into what happened next, hit that subscribe button right now because you need to see how this ends. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back 6 hours to where it all began, because what you're about to hear will make your blood boil. 6 hours earlier, Rebecca Thornfield sat alone in the Skyridge Airlines crew lounge at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, scrolling through her phone with the kind of bitterness that had been festering inside her for 8 long years. She stopped on an influencer's post. A woman her age lounging on a yacht in the Mediterranean champagne in hand designer sunglasses, caption reading, "Living my best life." Rebecca's thumb hovered over the screen. That should be me, she thought. That could have been me. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her spiral of resentment. Skyridge Airlines Executive Office. Subject line urgent. All staff mandatory read. New CEO announcement. Rebecca swiped it away without even opening it. Delete. She had seen these emails before. Every 6 months, some new initiative. Some new corporate buzzword. Diversity. Inclusion. Excellence. Nothing ever changed. The same people stayed at the top. The same people like her stayed stuck at the bottom serving drinks at 30,000 feet to people who treated her like she was invisible. Another buzz. This time a text from Devin Price. "Beck, did you see that company-wide email the new CEO finalized the acquisition this morning? She's implementing major changes. We need to read it before our flight." Rebecca rolled her eyes so hard it hurt. Devin was always like this, always worried, always following rules, always so damn sensitive about everything. She typed back, "Don't care. See you at the gate." She went back to scrolling, finding another influencer. Another perfect life. Another reminder of everything she didn't have. 8 years, she muttered under her breath, loud enough that the flight attendant at the next table glanced over. 8 years I've been doing this job. 8 years of smiling at people who look down on me. 8 years, and what do I have to show for it? Nothing. Her friend Jennifer Walsh appeared, setting her coffee down on the table with a dramatic sigh. "You look thrilled to be here." Rebecca didn't look up. "Budget travelers are getting worse. Last week I had a family in economy, 6 people crammed into 5 seats, and they had the nerve to ask me for extra snacks. Like I'm running a charity." Jennifer leaned in, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "I know exactly what you mean. And you know what's worse, when they bring all their kids, running up and down the aisles screaming, touching everything, like they're entitled to first-class service on economy tickets." "Exactly." Rebecca finally looked up, finding someone who understood. "They get on these planes and act like they own the place. Someone needs to remind them where they belong." "You'd think their parents would teach them some manners," Jennifer said, sipping her coffee. "Their parents are usually the worst ones," Rebecca said. "That's where the kids learn it." Devin Price approached their table, his expression serious, his tablet already pulled up to something. "Morning, ladies. Rebecca, please tell me you read that email from corporate." Rebecca barely glanced at him. "No, Devin, and I'm not going to. Every 6 months there's some new policy, some new procedure. Nothing ever actually changes. This one is different." Devin's voice had an urgency that made Jennifer look up with mild interest. "The new CEO just took over, like officially as of 9 this morning. She's already fired 3 senior executives for what she's calling culture violations. And Rebecca, you need to hear this, she came from nothing. Literally nothing. Built a tech empire worth $3 billion from scratch." Rebecca laughed, the sound sharp and ugly. "Came from nothing. Right. Let me guess, another diversity hire playing the victim card. Another person who checked all the right boxes and got handed everything on a silver platter. I'm so tired of these people getting promoted over those of us who actually work for it. The words hung in the air. Devon's jaw tightened. These people, what people exactly, Rebecca? Don't start with me, Devon. You know exactly what I mean. People who get ahead because of quotas, not qualifications. People who cry discrimination every time they don't get what they want. Maybe, Devon said carefully, his voice tight. She actually earned it. Maybe she's brilliant. Maybe she worked harder than anyone else. Rebecca turned to Jennifer, speaking loud enough that Devon couldn't miss it. He's so sensitive, can't say anything anymore without someone getting offended. Jennifer smirked into her coffee cup. Devon tried one more time, pulling out his phone and opening the email. Rebecca, I'm serious. You need to read this. Her name is Vivian Carter. She's 38 years old. She sold her tech company for $3.2 billion and used that money to buy controlling interest in Skyridge. And you know what her first priority is? She literally wrote it in the email. Protecting vulnerable passengers, especially children, from discrimination and abuse. She's auditing every employee complaint from the last 5 years. Rebecca stood up, grabbing her roller bag with more force than necessary. Good for her. Like I said, doesn't affect me. I do my job. I follow the procedures. I've been here 8 years without any real problems. Without any real problems? Devon's voice rose slightly. Rebecca, you've had 4 complaints filed against you just this year. Those were misunderstandings, Rebecca said, her face flushing. Passengers exaggerate. They get emotional and make mountains out of molehills. None of those complaints went anywhere, did they? Because they were baseless. Devon's face went pale as he scrolled through something on his phone. His eyes widened. Oh no. Oh, Rebecca, this is worse than I thought. What now? Rebecca's tone was dismissive, but something in Devon's expression made Jennifer pay attention. The new CEO, Vivian Carter, she's not just auditing complaints. She's looking for patterns. Employees who have multiple complaints from passengers of color. She's calling it systemic discrimination, and she's terminating people with patterns. Rebecca, according to this internal memo I just got copied on, you have 14 complaints on file. 14 complaints over 8 years. Rebecca's face went red. So what, I've never been disciplined. The union protects me. The union protects you from unfair termination, Devon said. It doesn't protect you from termination for cause. And a pattern of discrimination, that's cause. This is ridiculous, Rebecca said. I treat everyone the same. Devon looked at her for a long moment. Do you really? I'm not having this conversation. Rebecca started walking toward the exit. I have a flight to work. Rebecca, wait. Devon followed her into the hallway. I'm trying to help you. This new CEO, she's serious. She's already fired people, good people with years of experience. If you have even one more complaint, one more incident, you're done. Rebecca stopped walking and turned to face him. Let me tell you something, Devon. I've survived 5 CEOs, 3 restructures, and more difficult passengers than you've probably served in your entire career. Some new executive isn't going to change anything. They never do. She'll make her little changes, send out her little emails, and in 6 months, everything will be exactly the same as it's always been. Because that's how it works. That's how it always works. Not this time, Devon said quietly. Why? Because she's different. Because she's special. Rebecca's voice dripped with sarcasm. Because she actually experienced what you dish out, Devon said. Read the email, Rebecca. She grew up poor. Single mother, worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. She knows what it's like to be treated like you don't belong, and now she has the power to do something about it. Rebecca laughed bitterly. Oh, so she's on a crusade. Even better. Well, let her crusade. I'm not changing who I am because some CEO wants to feel good about herself. She walked away, her roller bag clicking loudly on the tile floor. Devon stood there watching her go and pulled out his phone. He texted his supervisor. Rebecca didn't read the email, didn't care. I have a bad feeling about this flight. As Rebecca passed the main hallway, there was a large bulletin board with a professional photo and announcement. Skyridge Airlines proudly welcomes new CEO Vivian Carter. The photo showed a striking black woman in a business suit, confident smile, intelligent eyes. Rebecca walked right past it without even glancing over. Meanwhile, at Gate B7, 3 identical 8-year-old black girls sat in a neat row near the boarding area. Naomi Simone and Jasmine Carter. Triplets. They wore matching purple dresses with white Peter Pan collars, the fabric crisp and clearly expensive. Their hair was braided identically, each braid ending with a gold bead that caught the fluorescent light. Each girl had a small backpack at her feet and a book in her hands. They weren't running around like other children in the gate area. They weren't on tablets or phones. They sat quietly reading, occasionally whispering to each other. Naomi, the oldest by exactly 3 minutes, according to the hospital records, sat with perfect posture. She was reading a chapter book about the first black female astronaut. On her lap was a small purple notebook with flight information, written in careful handwriting on the cover. Inside, she had written down everything Gate B7. Flight 447, departure 2:15 p.m. Arrival, JFK 5:47 p.m. Emergency contact. Mama's assistant Kendra, with her phone number written twice to make sure it was correct. Simone, the middle child, was curled up in her seat with a poetry collection. She was the sensitive one, the emotional one. As she read a poem about missing home, her eyes welled up with tears. She quickly wiped them away, not wanting her sisters to see. Jasmine, the youngest by 2 minutes, had a graphic novel about a black superhero girl. Her foot bounced constantly, with barely contained energy. She muttered under her breath as she read, "I knew she was the villain. I knew it the whole time." A gate announcement crackled overhead. "We will begin boarding Flight 447 to New York JFK in approximately 15 minutes. At this time, we invite passengers traveling with small children, passengers needing extra time, and our uniformed military personnel to begin boarding." Naomi immediately closed her book and opened her notebook. Boarding passes. All 3 girls pulled their boarding passes from their pockets, simultaneously holding them up for Naomi's inspection. Emergency contact cards. 3 identical laminated cards appeared. Unaccompanied minor lanyards. 3 hands touched the bright orange lanyards already around their necks. Phone charged. Naomi checked her phone. 100%. Snacks. Check, Simone said, patting her backpack. Manners. All 3 recited in perfect unison. "Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am, please, and thank you. Stand tall, look people in the eye, and remember who we are." Jasmine grinned. "Mama trained us good." "Mama trained us well," Naomi corrected automatically. "That too," Jasmine said. Simone's voice got small. "I just wish Mama was flying with us." Naomi put her arm around her sister. She explained why. Remember, she has the big meeting, the really important one. Jasmine leaned in, whispering with excitement. The one where she buys the whole airline. They giggled together, quiet and well-mannered, even in their excitement. Naomi pulled out her phone. There was a text from Mama sent 28 minutes ago. "My beautiful girls, remember who you are. Remember whose daughters you are. Nobody can take your dignity unless you give it to them. I'm always watching, even when you can't see me. Even when it feels like you're alone, I'm there. I love you bigger than the sky. See you in New York." The girls read it together, huddled around Naomi's phone. "We should text back," Simone said, her voice still thick with emotion. Naomi typed carefully, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration. "We're at the gate. We're ready. We remember everything you taught us. We love you bigger than the sky and all the stars." The response came within seconds. 3 heart emojis and the words, "My strong, brilliant, beautiful daughters." Jasmine wiped her eyes quickly. "I'm not crying. You're crying." "We're all crying a little," Naomi admitted. "And that's okay. Mama says it's okay to have feelings. As long as we don't let feelings make our decisions," Simone added, quoting their mother. "Exactly," Naomi said. 15 minutes later, boarding began. An airline employee named Ashley appeared with a clipboard, smiling warmly. "Are you Naomi Simone and Jasmine Carter?" "Yes, ma'am," Naomi answered, standing up. Her sisters immediately followed suit. "I'm Ashley. I'll be your escort today. I'll walk you onto the plane and make sure you're all settled in your seats. Do you have all your belongings?" "Yes, ma'am," all 3 answered together. Ashley's smile widened. "You 3 are the most prepared, unaccompanied minors I've ever escorted. Your mother must be very special." "She is," Jasmine said with absolute confidence. "She's the best mama in the world." As they walked down the jetway, their footsteps echoing in the enclosed space, Simone whispered, "Do you think Mama really is watching us right now?" "I know she is," Naomi said firmly. "Mama never breaks a promise. If she said she's watching, she's watching." What the girls didn't know was that their mother was indeed watching. In fact, she was already on the plane sitting in first-class seat 2A. Vivian Carter had boarded early, using her executive privileges. Her laptop was open, showing a split screen. On the left, the security camera feed from gate B7. On the right, the security camera feeds from inside the aircraft. She had 4 different angles of the economy cabin displayed, each one crystal clear, each one recording. She watched her daughters walk down the jetway on one screen. Her hand trembled slightly as she gripped her water glass. Patricia, the first-class flight attendant, approached quietly, respectfully. "Miss Carter, can I get you anything before we complete boarding?" Vivian's voice was calm, professional, controlled. "Just water, thank you, Patricia. Still no ice." "Of course," Patricia poured from a glass bottle. "Miss Carter, I've made a note that your daughters are in economy cabin. I'd be happy to personally check on them throughout the flight, make sure they have everything they need." "No." Vivian's response was immediate and firm enough that Patricia actually took a step back. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overstep. I just thought—" "Patricia, it's not that I don't appreciate the offer, but I need you to not check on them. I need the regular economy crew to handle them exactly as they would handle any other unaccompanied minors. No special treatment, no exceptions." Patricia looked confused, concerned. "Miss Carter, forgive me, but I don't understand. If you're concerned about their comfort—" "I'm not concerned about their comfort." Vivian looked up and Patricia saw something fierce and determined in her eyes. "I'm concerned about their safety, their dignity, their treatment. Do you know why I'm sitting in first class while my 8-year-old daughters are in economy? No, ma'am. Because I need to see how my airline treats children who don't have anyone with power to protect them. I need to see what happens when the crew doesn't know who they are. I need to see what happens when flight attendants think there won't be consequences." Patricia's voice became very quiet. "You think the crew might mistreat them?" "I think," Vivian said carefully, "that people reveal their true character when they believe nobody important is watching, when they think they can get away with it. So today I'm watching, I'm recording, and there will be consequences for whoever fails this test." "Should I alert the cabin crew that you're on board?" "Absolutely not. Nobody knows I'm on this flight except you, and I need it to stay that way." "Understood, Miss Carter." "Patricia, one more thing. The cabin cameras. All of them. I need confirmation that they're recording properly." Patricia checked her tablet. "All cameras active and recording, full flight duration, multiple angles of every section of the cabin." "Good." Vivian returned her attention to her laptop. "Very good." Patricia walked away, her mind racing. She had worked for Skyridge for 12 years, and she had never seen a CEO do anything like this. Vivian pulled up a personnel file on her laptop. Rebecca Thornfield, employee number 4782, 8 years with Skyridge Airlines. And then the complaints, 14 official complaints filed over 8 years. Vivian read through them, her jaw tightening with each one. Complaint number 1, flight attendant made comments about my family smelling like ethnic food and asked us to put away our meal even though other passengers were eating. Complaint number 2, told my daughter her natural hair was unprofessional and asked her to tie it back. Complaint number 3, made assumption that I was traveling on a charity ticket and asked me to prove I had paid for my seat. Complaint number 4, referred to my children as ghetto within earshot of other passengers. 14 complaints, 11 from black passengers, 2 from Asian passengers, 1 from a Latina passenger, every single one describing the same pattern: assumptions, microaggressions, disrespect, cruelty disguised as customer service. And she was still employed. Vivian's hand tightened around her water glass. This was exactly why she had bought this airline. Not for profit, though it would be profitable. Not for prestige, though it would bring that, too. She had bought Skyridge Airlines because she remembered what it felt like to be treated like you didn't belong, like you didn't matter, like you were less than human. She had been those 3 little girls once, flying alone at age 10 to visit her grandmother, the only one who could afford to take her for the summer. She remembered a flight attendant who looked at her like she was garbage, Who made her prove her ticket was real? Who accidentally spilled a drink on her only good dress? She had cried herself to sleep that night on her grandmother's couch, that stained dress soaking in the bathtub, feeling small and powerless and alone. Never again, she had promised herself. When I have power, I'll use it to protect others. Today was that day. Vivian typed quickly, sending a message to her legal team. Stand by. Monitoring potential discrimination incident in real time. May need immediate legal action upon landing. The response came back immediately. Team on standby. Recording all communications. Back in economy, Ashley was helping the triplets to their seats. Row 24 seats, a B and C, window, middle, and aisle. Here we are, Ashley said cheerfully. You'll have the whole row to yourselves. Your flight attendants will check on you during the flight. If you need anything at all, just press this button. She pointed to the call button above them. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your help, Naomi said. Ashley smiled and walked back toward the front of the plane. The girls settled in immediately, backpacks stowed under the seats in front of them, books out, seatbelts fastened without being asked. They were perfect passengers before the plane even started boarding. An elderly white woman sat down in seat 24D right across the aisle. She had wire-rimmed glasses, soft white curls, and the kindest face Simone had ever seen. The woman smiled at them. Well, aren't you three just the most precious things? Triplets. Yes, ma'am, Naomi answered politely. And traveling all by yourselves. My goodness, you must be very responsible young ladies. Our mama taught us well, Simone said, sitting up a little straighter. The woman's smile grew warmer. I can see that, sweetheart. I can absolutely see that. I'm Mrs. Crawford, Helen Crawford. I was a school teacher for 40 years, so I know well-behaved children when I see them. And if you need anything during this flight, anything at all, you just let Mrs. Crawford know. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs. Crawford, Jasmine said. Mrs. Crawford pulled out her knitting, but her eyes stayed on those three beautiful little girls. Something about them tugged at her heart. So young to be traveling alone, so trusting, so vulnerable. Boarding continued. Passengers filed past storing luggage, settling into seats, the usual chaos of an airplane filling up. A tall black man in an expensive suit. Jeffrey Davidson took seat 22C 2 rows ahead of the girls. He glanced back, saw three well-dressed children with books, and nodded approvingly. Clearly someone had raised them right. Then Rebecca Thornfield walked through the cabin doing her pre-flight check, checking overhead bins, checking seat numbers, making sure passengers were in correct seats. She reached row 24. She saw the triplets. Her entire body language changed in an instant. Her spine went rigid. Her face hardened. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She stopped walking and just stared at them, her eyes narrowing, her expression transforming into something that looked like disgust. Naomi noticed the flight attendant staring. She tried to be polite, exactly as her mother had taught her. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon. Rebecca didn't respond. She didn't smile. She didn't acknowledge the greeting. She just kept staring, her eyes moving from one girl to the next, her jaw clenching. Devin was working several rows behind checking passenger seats. He looked up and saw Rebecca's expression. He had worked with her for 3 years and he knew that look. He had seen it before, and it always preceded trouble. His stomach dropped. This was going to be bad. Rebecca finally turned away from the girls and walked toward the front galley. But she stopped next to Jennifer, who was arranging beverage supplies. She spoke just loud enough that her voice carried back to row 24. Great, just great. 3 of them traveling together. Jennifer glanced back at the triplets. Alone. Looks like it. Unaccompanied minors. You know what that means. Problem children, Jennifer said, not even trying to lower her voice. Always are, Rebecca agreed. Watch, we won't even get to cruising altitude before there's an issue. Every word carried back to row 24. Simone's eyes filled with tears immediately. She looked down at her book, trying to hide her face. Naomi put her arm around her sister, pulling her close. Her voice was barely a whisper. Don't let them see you cry. Hold your head up. Remember what Mama said. But Jasmine's hands curled into fists. Her book dropped to her lap, forgotten. She stared at Rebecca's back with an expression far too adult for an 8-year-old face. Mrs. Crawford's knitting needles had stopped moving. She had heard everything. She looked at Rebecca with cold disapproval, but didn't say anything. Not yet. But she was watching now. Very carefully watching. Jeffrey Davidson had heard it too. He pulled out his phone, opening his voice memo app, and hit record. Flight 447 Atlanta to New York, JFK, approximately 2:10 p.m. boarding time. Witnessed flight attendant named Rebecca, last name, visible on badge as Thornfield, make prejudicial comments about 3 minor passengers. African-American triplets, approximately 8 years old, well-dressed, well-behaved. Flight attendant assumed they would be problem children before any interaction. We'll continue monitoring. He kept the phone recording in his pocket. Rebecca moved to the front of the cabin for final boarding announcements. Devon caught up with her in the galley. Beck, what was that back there? What was what, B? Those girls. You made assumptions about them before they even did anything. I know their type, Devon. Just trust me. Before this flight is over, there will be drama. There always is with kids like that. Kids like what? Devon's voice was tight. Kids traveling alone usually means foster system, social services, behavioral issues, parents who can't handle them. You don't know that. You don't know anything about them. Rebecca's eyes flashed with irritation. I've been doing this for 8 years, Devon. I've seen it all. Those kids, look at them. Designer dresses, gold beads. Somebody is trying to make them look like something they're not, but you can't polish trash. Devon actually stepped back, shocked. Did you just call those children trash? I'm saying what everyone's thinking. I'm just the only one honest enough to say it out loud. No, Devon said quietly. You're the only one cruel enough to say it out loud. There's a difference. Oh, here we go. Devon and his bleeding heart, his moral superiority. You know what your problem is. You're too soft. This job requires boundaries, discipline. Someone has to maintain order. Those children are sitting quietly reading books. What order needs to be maintained? Not yet, but just wait. I'm telling you, before we land, they'll show their true colors. Devon pulled out his phone, looking at the email from corporate one more time. He turned the screen toward Rebecca. Read this, please, just the first paragraph. Rebecca glanced at it dismissively. I told you I don't care about some new CEO's pet project. Her name is Vivian Carter. She's black. She came from nothing. She built a $3 billion company. She bought this airline specifically to address discrimination. And you know what she's looking for? Employees with patterns of bias against passengers of color. She's already fired 11 people, Rebecca. 11 people in 3 weeks. Good for her, Rebecca said coldly. I'm sure she had to check all the diversity boxes to get where she is. Now she's on some crusade to make herself feel important. You really believe that? You really think she didn't earn everything she has? I think the system is rigged. I think some people get ahead because of what they are, not what they do. And I think I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Devon looked at her for a long moment. You know what I tried. I really tried to warn you. But you don't want to be saved. So I'm done. I'm officially done trying to protect you from yourself. I don't need protection. You need a miracle, Devon said. Because if you treat those girls the way I think you're going to treat them, you're going to lose everything. Those girls, Rebecca said, are going to learn respect, even if I have to teach it to them myself. She walked away. Devon stood there, his hands shaking slightly. He pulled out his phone and texted his manager. On Flight 447, Rebecca Thornfield is targeting 3 minor passengers, African-American triplets. She's already made discriminatory comments. I have witnesses. Request supervisor meet plane upon arrival. The response came quickly. Documented. Stay vigilant. Report any incidents immediately. The plane pushed back from the gate at exactly 2:17 p.m., 2 minutes late. The safety demonstration began. The triplets watched attentively, following along with the safety card from the seat pocket, pointing to each feature as it was demonstrated. Takeoff was smooth. Atlanta fell away beneath them, the city shrinking, the sky opening up. Simone pressed her face to the window. I wish Mama could see this. She's seeing it too, Naomi said, just from a different window. When we land, Jasmine said, we're going to have so much to tell her. If only they knew how true that would be. The seatbelt sign dinged off at 11,000 feet. Rebecca stood up immediately, grabbing the beverage cart with Jennifer. Let me handle rows 20 through 25, Rebecca said. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. You sure that's got those kids? Exactly, Rebecca said. Devon was working the other aisle, too far away to intervene without making a scene, but he watched, and he kept his phone ready. Rebecca worked the cart down the aisle with mechanical efficiency. Row 18, Row 19, row 20. Professional smile. Can I get you something to drink? Polite service. Row 21. Same smile, same politeness. Row 22. Jeffrey Davidson looked up from his tablet. Tomato juice, please. Of course, sir. Ice? Please. Thank you. Rebecca poured it carefully, handed it over with a napkin and a genuine smile. There you go, sir. Enjoy your flight. Thank you, Jeffrey said. Then Rebecca moved the cart forward one more row. Row 24. She stopped. The smile vanished. Her face became a mask of cold contempt. She didn't greet them. She just stood there staring down at 3 8-year-old girls like they were insects. The silence stretched out. Other passengers in nearby rows noticed. Conversation dipped. Simone spoke first, her voice small and polite. Excuse me, ma'am. Rebecca didn't respond. Didn't acknowledge her. Just kept staring. Naomi tried using her most respectful voice, the one Mama had taught her. Ma'am, may we please have 3 apple juices, please? Rebecca's face twisted into something ugly. When she finally spoke, her voice was loud, deliberately loud, designed to carry, designed to humiliate. Apple juice. Do you have money to pay for that? The girls looked at each other confused. Jasmine spoke up, her voice uncertain. It's free, ma'am. The beverage service is complimentary. Rebecca's laugh was cruel, mocking. Complimentary for paying passengers. Are you paying passengers, or are you on some kind of assistance program? Naomi's voice shook, but she kept her composure. Our mother purchased our tickets, ma'am. We're flying to meet her in New York. Rebecca's voice dripped with sarcasm. Oh, your mother. I see. And where exactly is your mother right now? Does she even know where you are, or did social services book these tickets for you? Simone's eyes filled with tears. Her hands started trembling. The cabin had gone completely quiet now. Everyone within 3 rows was listening. Mrs. Crawford set down her knitting very deliberately. Her face had gone hard. Jeffrey Davidson slowly closed his tablet. Naomi's voice was steady, dignified, exactly as her mother had taught her for moments like this. Our mother knows exactly where we are, ma'am. She bought our tickets. She's meeting us at JFK, and she taught us to respect people, even when they don't respect us. That quiet dignity seemed to infuriate Rebecca even more. Well, your mother should have taught you not to expect handouts. Most children traveling alone are on charity programs, troubled kids, system kids, kids whose parents can't afford them so they get passed around. She leaned down, her voice getting quieter, but somehow more vicious. Is that what you are? Are you girls getting passed around because nobody wants you? Simone started crying openly now, big tears rolling down her 8-year-old face. That's not true, she whispered. That's not us. Mama loves us. Mama wants us. Sure she does, Rebecca said mockingly. She grabbed 3 small bottles of apple juice from the cart, but instead of handing them to the girls like she had with every other passenger, she dropped them on their tray tables, hard, like feeding time at a zoo. Simone's hands were shaking so badly from crying that she could barely grip the small plastic bottle. She tried to open it, but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. The bottle slipped from her grasp. Juice exploded everywhere, all over her purple dress. The dress Mama had bought special for this trip. The dress Simone had been so careful with all morning. The stains spread across the fabric, dark and obvious. Oh no, Simone cried out, looking down in horror. My dress, Mama's dress, I ruined it. Rebecca's voice was ice cold. Maybe you should be more careful. Some of us have to work for what we have. We can't just replace everything whenever we break it. But I guess you wouldn't know about that, would you? She walked away, pushing the cart forward, leaving Simone sobbing, and Naomi desperately trying to clean up the mess with thin airplane napkins that did nothing. Jasmine sat frozen, her hands balled into fists, her whole body shaking with rage. She did that on purpose, Jasmine hissed. She dropped it so it would spill. I know, Naomi whispered, still dabbing uselessly at Simone's dress. I know she did. Mama wouldn't let anyone treat us like this. Mama's not here, Naomi said, her own voice cracking now. We have to be strong. Remember what she said. They're testing us. We have to prove who we are. Mrs. Crawford reached across the aisle with a handful of her own napkins and a packet of tissues from her purse. That woman has a cruel, cruel heart, girls. But you 3, you have grace. You have dignity. Your mother raised absolute warriors. "Thank you, Mrs. Crawford," Naomi managed, but her voice was breaking. Jeffrey Davidson had watched the entire exchange. He pulled out his phone recording another voice memo with precise details. Flight 447, approximately 42 minutes into flight. Flight attendant Rebecca Thornfield verbally harassed 3 minor passengers in row 24, made derogatory assumptions about family situation, economic status, and implied children were unwanted, made racist comment about system kids and troubled children, deliberately mishandled beverage service in a manner that appeared intentional, resulting in spill on minor passenger's clothing. Minor passenger is now crying. Other passengers witnessed entire incident. Multiple people appear upset. Flight attendant showed no remorse. Will continue monitoring. He kept the recording going, slipping the phone back into his pocket. In the galley, Devon had watched everything. He grabbed Rebecca's arm the moment she returned. "Beck, what the hell was that?" "I served them their drinks." "You humiliated them. You made one of them cry. That child is 8 years old and you just deliberately—" "I didn't do anything!" Rebecca cut him off. "She spilled her own drink. Not my fault she's clumsy." "You dropped it on her tray." "I placed it on her tray. She couldn't handle it. That's her problem, not mine." "She couldn't handle it because you terrified her. You made her hands shake. You did that deliberately." Rebecca's face flushed with anger. They need to learn. They need to understand that the world doesn't revolve around them. They're children. They're entitled. They need discipline. Someone needs to teach them their place in this world. Their place. Devon's voice rose despite himself. "What place is that, Rebecca? Where exactly do you think they belong?" "You know exactly what I mean." "Say it. Go ahead. Say what you really mean." Rebecca's eyes flashed. "Fine. You want me to say it? Those kids don't belong in premium economy. They don't belong on flights to New York wearing designer dresses and acting like princesses. Someone's trying to make them into something they're not, and it's not doing them any favors. Better they learn now how the world really works." Devon stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You're a racist. I've known you for 3 years, and I never wanted to believe it, but you're actually racist." "I'm a realist." "No, you're a bigot, and you're about to pay for it." "Oh, please, those kids won't do anything. Their mother probably doesn't care, and even if she did, who is she? Nobody. I have union protection. I have 8 years here. Nothing's going to happen." "The new CEO," Devon said quietly. "Her name is Vivian Carter. She's African American. She grew up poor. She's fired 11 employees in 3 weeks for discrimination. And you just gave her the perfect example on camera." Rebecca's face paled slightly. "What camera?" "The cabin cameras, Rebecca. The ones that record every flight. The ones connected directly to corporate security. The ones the new CEO has access to." For just a moment, genuine fear flickered across Rebecca's face. Then the arrogance returned. "So what I followed procedure. I served beverages. A child spilled hers. That's not discrimination." "Keep telling yourself that," Devon said. "But when you're in an office getting terminated, remember that I tried to warn you multiple times." He walked away. Rebecca stood there, her jaw tight, her hands clenched. Then she straightened her uniform and returned to beverage service. Because she wasn't wrong. She couldn't be wrong. She had been doing this for 8 years. She knew how things worked. Those children needed to learn, and she was going to teach them. In first class, Vivian Carter had watched the entire exchange on her laptop screen. All 4 camera angles had captured it. Every word, every gesture, every tear on Simone's face. Her hands were shaking so badly, she had to set down her water glass before she shattered it. Patricia approached quietly. "Miss Carter, are you—" "I'm fine," Vivian said, but her voice was tight as a wire. "I saw what happened on the monitor. Should I—" "No. Nobody intervenes. Not yet. I need to see how far she'll go. I need to document everything." Vivian's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Email to legal team. Begin preparing criminal complaint. Assault of minor. Child endangerment. Discrimination. Video evidence attached. Need charges filed upon landing." Response came in seconds. "Received. NYPD liaison contacted. Officers will meet aircraft." Vivian opened a new document and began typing, her fingers hitting the keys hard enough that Patricia could hear it from 6 feet away. "Incident report. Flight 447. Rebecca Thornfield, employee, number 4782, 1442 EST, verbal harassment of minor passengers, racist assumptions about economic status, deliberate mishandling of beverage service resulting in damage to minor's property, child visibly distressed, multiple witnesses, video evidence from 4 angles, recommend immediate termination and criminal prosecution. She saved it, attached the video files, sent it to her entire executive team. "They're my babies," she whispered to the screen, watching Naomi try to comfort Simone. "They're my babies, and she's hurting them, and I have to sit here and let it happen so I can burn her whole life down." Patricia stood nearby, not knowing what to say. "How much longer?" Vivian asked. Patricia checked her watch. "Approximately 95 minutes to landing." 95 minutes, Vivian repeated. "They can be strong for 95 more minutes. They're my daughters. They're warriors. They can do this." But her hands were still shaking, and the worst was yet to come. If you're not subscribed yet, do it right now, because what happens in the next 20 minutes is going to shock you. Drop a comment telling me if you've ever witnessed something like this, because this story is far from over. Let me write seamlessly from there. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude, 37,000 feet above Georgia, and Rebecca Thornfield returned to the galley with a smile on her face that made Devin feel sick to his stomach. She actually looked satisfied, pleased with herself. "That went well," Rebecca said to Jennifer, who was restocking napkins. Jennifer glanced toward row 24. "One of them is still crying." "Good. Maybe she'll learn to be more careful." Devin couldn't stay silent anymore. He stepped between them, his voice low and urgent. "Beck, you need to stop, right now, before this gets worse." "It's already handled," Rebecca said, waving him off. "They'll sit quietly for the rest of the flight now. Trust me. I know how to manage difficult passengers." They weren't difficult. They were polite. They said please and thank you. "Devin, I don't have time for your sensitivity training right now. Go work your section." He didn't move. "I'm documenting everything, every word, every action, and when we land, I'm reporting all of it." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "You do that. Report me. See where it gets you. I've survived complaints before. I'll survive yours too." "This time is different." "Nothing's ever different," Rebecca said. She actually laughed. "You think because we have some new CEO that everything changes? Please. I've seen 5 CEOs come and go. They all say the same things: diversity, inclusion, respect. Then 6 months later, nothing's changed. It never changes." Devin pulled out his phone, showing her the email one more time. "Vivian Carter bought 60% controlling interest. She can't be fired. She can't be voted out. And she's already terminated 11 people for discrimination complaints. 11 people in 3 weeks, Rebecca." For a fraction of a second, real fear flickered across Rebecca's face. Then it was gone, replaced by stubborn defiance. "Those people probably deserved it. I don't. You just made a child cry on purpose. I served beverages. She spilled hers. End of story." Devin looked at her for a long moment, then walked away without another word. There was no point. She was going to do what she was going to do, and he couldn't stop her. All he could do was document everything and hope it was enough to protect those 3 little girls. 40 minutes into the flight, the triplets had somewhat recovered. Simone's dress was still stained, but Naomi had managed to blot most of the juice away. Simone had stopped crying, though her eyes were still red and swollen. Mrs. Crawford leaned across the aisle. "How are you girls doing?" "We're okay," Naomi said, though her voice was shaky. "That woman should be ashamed of herself," Mrs. Crawford said. "In all my years, I have never seen a flight attendant behave that way toward children." "It's okay," Simone whispered. "We're used to it." Those 4 words broke Mrs. Crawford's heart. "What do you mean, sweetheart? You're used to what?" Jasmine spoke up, her voice hard. "People looking at us like we don't belong, like we're not good enough, like we did something wrong just by existing." "Your mother taught you about this," Mrs. Crawford said gently. "Mama says the world will test us," Naomi explained. "She says some people will try to make us feel small because of how we look. But she says we can't let them. We have to stand tall and remember who we are." "Your mama sounds like a very wise woman." "She's the best," all 3 girls said together. Mrs. Crawford pulled out her phone. "What's your mama's name, darling? I'd like to send her a message about what happened. Someone needs to report that flight attendant." Her name is Vivian Carter, Naomi said, but we shouldn't bother her right now. She's in a really important meeting. Mrs. Crawford had started typing the name into her phone to look up contact information. Then she froze. Her eyes went wide. Vivian Carter. The Vivian Carter. You know our mama? Simone asked, surprised. Mrs. Crawford's hands were trembling as she looked at her phone screen. Sweetheart, your mother is the new CEO of Skyridge Airlines. She bought this company. She owns this airplane. The triplets looked at each other and giggled. We know, Jasmine said. That's the important meeting. She finalized everything this morning. Mrs. Crawford's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, understanding, and then something that looked almost like anticipation. Girls, does that flight attendant know who your mother is? No, ma'am, Naomi said. Mama told us not to tell anyone. She wanted to see how the crew treats regular passengers. Oh, my dear Lord, Mrs. Crawford whispered. She looked back toward the galley where Rebecca was working, and despite the situation, a small smile crossed her face. That woman has no idea what's about to hit her. Mama says there are always consequences, Simone said quietly. Your mama is absolutely right, Mrs. Crawford said, and that flight attendant is about to learn that lesson very, very thoroughly. Jeffrey Davidson had been listening from 2 rows ahead. He turned around, keeping his voice low. Girls, I'm an attorney. What I witnessed earlier was harassment and possibly discrimination. With your permission, I'd like to document everything and provide testimony if needed. Would that be okay? Our mama would appreciate that, Naomi said. Thank you, sir. You 3 are remarkably composed for 8-year-olds dealing with such treatment. Our mama prepared us, Jasmine said. She said we might face challenges. She said to stay strong. She did an excellent job, Jeffrey said. He pulled out his business card and handed it to Naomi. When you see your mother, please give her this. Tell her I have detailed documentation and recordings of everything that occurred. We will, Naomi promised, tucking the card carefully into her pocket. 1 hour into the flight, things escalated. Rebecca walked through the cabin doing a trash collection. When she reached row 24, she stopped. The girls had their tray tables down working on coloring books that Naomi had packed. Tray tables up, Rebecca said sharply. The girls immediately started putting their crayons away. Now, Rebecca snapped. I don't have all day. Yes, ma'am, Naomi said quickly. They fumbled with their belongings, trying to move fast, but they were 8 years old and couldn't move at adult speed. Rebecca grabbed Jasmine's tray table and slammed it up so hard that crayons flew everywhere, scattering across the floor and under seats. When I say now, I mean now. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. Those were my crayons. Mama bought me those. Should have moved faster, Rebecca said coldly. She moved on. The girls scrambled to pick up the crayons, crawling on the floor between seats. Other passengers helped handing over the ones that had rolled under their feet. Here you go, sweetie, a woman said, handing Simone 3 crayons. Thank you, ma'am, Simone whispered. They were missing 5 crayons. 5 out of the 64 pack that their mother had bought them specifically for this trip. Jasmine held the box, counting them over and over, tears streaming down her face. It's okay, Naomi said, trying to comfort her. We still have most of them. But Mama bought us a complete set, Jasmine sobbed. And now it's ruined. Mrs. Crawford watched this and pulled out her phone again. She texted her daughter. On a flight where a flight attendant is abusing 3 little black girls. It's horrific. Their mother is the new CEO of the airline and doesn't know yet. This woman is going to be destroyed when they land. Her daughter texted back immediately. Are you recording this? Everyone is, Mrs. Crawford typed back. At least a dozen phones. 75 minutes into the flight, Simone asked if she could use the bathroom. I'll come with you, Naomi said, starting to unbuckle. I can go by myself, Simone said. I'm not a baby. Mama's rule, Naomi reminded her. We stay together. You stay with Jasmine, Simone said. I'll be right back. She walked toward the bathroom at the back of the plane. Rebecca saw her coming and deliberately stepped into the aisle, blocking her path. Where are you going? Bathroom, ma'am? Did you ask permission? Simone looked confused. I didn't know I needed to ask permission. Unaccompanied minors need to inform crew before leaving their seats. That's the rule. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't know. May I please use the bathroom? Rebecca stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch out uncomfortably. Other passengers were watching now. "Make it quick," Rebecca finally said, not moving out of the way. Simone had to squeeze past her, and as she did, Rebecca shifted slightly, making it harder, making the 8-year-old feel small and unwelcome in the narrow aisle. When Simone came out of the bathroom 3 minutes later, Rebecca was waiting right outside the door. "Took you long enough. I'm sorry, ma'am. Back to your seat, and don't get up again without permission." Simone hurried back to row 24, her face red with embarrassment. When she sat down, she was shaking. "What happened?" Naomi asked. "She was waiting outside the bathroom," Simone whispered, "like she was watching me." "That's creepy," Jasmine said. "That's power," Mrs. Crawford corrected grimly. "She's trying to make you feel watched, controlled. She wants you to be afraid." "I'm afraid," Simone admitted. "I know, sweetheart, but you're also brave. You went to the bathroom even though you were scared. That's what brave is." 90 minutes into the flight, Devon noticed Rebecca whispering with Jennifer near the rear galley. They kept looking toward row 24. He moved closer, pretending to check overhead bins. "I'm going to move them," Rebecca was saying. "Move them where?" Jennifer asked. "Last row, the one next to the lavatory. They've been disruptive enough." "They haven't been disruptive at all," Jennifer said, and for the first time she sounded uncertain. "Beck, maybe we should just leave them alone. We land in less than an hour." "No, they need to learn. I'm crew. I have authority to reseat passengers for safety and comfort of others." "What safety issue they're sitting there coloring?" "I don't need to justify my decisions to you," Rebecca snapped. Devon had heard enough. He walked over. "You can't move those children. They're in assigned seats. They haven't violated any regulations." "They've been disruptive," Rebecca said. "That's a lie and you know it." "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm saying if you move those children without legitimate cause, you're creating a situation that will end your career." Rebecca's face flushed with anger. "You know what? I'm tired of your interference. When we land, I'm filing a complaint against you for insubordination and failure to support crew decisions." "File whatever you want," Devon said. "I'll be filing my own complaint, along with about 20 passengers who've been watching you harass 3 children for the last 90 minutes. "I haven't harassed anyone." "Then why are 4 different passengers recording you?" Devon pointed. Mrs. Crawford had her phone out. Jeffrey Davidson had his out. 2 other passengers across the aisle were recording. "You're being documented from multiple angles. Everything you've said, everything you've done. It's all on video." Rebecca's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "They can't record me without permission." "Actually, they can. You're in public space performing public-facing duties. You have no expectation of privacy, and every single one of those videos is admissible evidence." For the first time since boarding, Rebecca looked genuinely scared. But then the arrogance came back like armor she couldn't remove even when it was destroying her. "I haven't done anything wrong. I've maintained order on my flight. That's my job." "Your job," Devon said quietly, "was to serve beverages and ensure passenger safety, not to traumatize children." He walked away before he said something he'd regret. Rebecca stood there breathing hard, her hands shaking slightly. She looked toward row 24, saw the 3 girls sitting quietly with their coloring books, and something in her expression shifted. It wasn't remorse, it was determination. They had challenged her authority by existing. They had made her look bad by being witnesses to her cruelty, and now they were going to pay for it. She walked toward row 24 with purpose. The girls saw her coming. They immediately sat up straighter, put down their crayons, folded their hands in their laps, trying to be perfect, trying to be invisible. It wouldn't be enough. Rebecca stopped at their row. "All 3 of you, stand up." "Why, ma'am?" Naomi asked politely. "Because I told you to. Stand up now." They stood their movements hesitant and frightened. "You're being relocated," Rebecca announced loudly enough that half the cabin could hear. "Relocated where, ma'am?" Naomi asked, her voice small. "To the back of the aircraft. You've been disruptive. You've disturbed other passengers. You're being moved." "We haven't been disruptive," Jasmine said, her voice rising with emotion. "We've been sitting here quiet. We haven't done anything wrong." Are you talking back to me? Passengers started speaking up. Those children have been perfect, someone called out. They haven't made a sound, another voice added. You're the one being disruptive, Mrs. Crawford said loudly. I'm crew, Rebecca said, raising her voice. I have the authority to reseat passengers for the safety and comfort of others. These children are being moved. That's final. Jeffrey Davidson stood up. Ma'am, those children are in their assigned seats. They have not violated any FAA regulations. You have no legitimate cause to move them. Sit down, sir. I'm an attorney, and I'm telling you that you're creating a legal liability for yourself and this airline. I don't care what you are. Sit down or I'll have you removed when we land. For what? Pointing out that you're abusing your authority. Other passengers were standing now. Phones were definitely out and recording. She's been harassing them since takeoff, a woman shouted. I saw her slam that tray table, someone else added. She spilled juice on one of them deliberately, another voice called out. Rebecca's face was red with fury, and underneath that fear, she was losing control. The cabin was turning against her, but she couldn't back down now. Backing down would mean admitting she was wrong, and she couldn't do that. She had never been able to do that. She leaned down her face close to Naomi's, her voice low and venomous. Your mother isn't here. She can't protect you. Nobody's coming to save you. You're alone. You're nothing. And you're going to learn your place. Naomi looked her directly in the eye. Our mother knows exactly where we are, and she's not going to be happy when she finds out how you treated us. That quiet defiance, that dignity, that refusal to be broken, it sent Rebecca over an edge she didn't even know she was approaching. She grabbed Naomi's arm and yanked her violently into the aisle. Naomi cried out as her knee caught the armrest. Blood appeared immediately running down her shin. Ow, you're hurting me, stop! Get up! Rebecca snarled, reaching for Simone with her other hand. Simone tried to pull away, but Rebecca grabbed her arm, 2 fingers digging in hard enough to bruise, and dragged her into the aisle. Jasmine launched herself at Rebecca, trying to protect her sisters. Get your hands off them! Rebecca shoved Jasmine backward hard. Jasmine hit the seat, the impact knocking the wind out of her. Then Rebecca grabbed her arm and pulled her into the aisle with her sisters. Now she had all 3 of them, 3 8-year-old girls, and she was dragging them down the aisle toward the back of the plane. The cabin erupted into chaos. Let those children go. Someone call the police. This is insane. I'm recording everything. At least 15 phones were recording now from different angles. The entire scene captured from every possible perspective. Rebecca was breathing hard, her face flushed, pulling the girls along. Their feet barely touched the ground. They were crying, screaming, terrified. Naomi's knee was bleeding, leaving small drops of blood on the carpet. Simone was hyperventilating, her face going pale. Jasmine was fighting, trying to twist free, her voice hoarse from screaming. Jeffrey Davidson moved to block Rebecca's path. Ma'am, release those children immediately. Rebecca shoved him with one hand, still gripping the girls with the other. Get out of my way. Jeffrey stumbled backward into his seat. He pulled out his phone, dialing 911. Yes, I'm on flight 447 from Atlanta to New York. A flight attendant is physically assaulting 3 minor passengers. We need police at JFK when we land. Multiple witnesses. I'm an attorney, and I'm willing to testify. Mrs. Crawford stood up, trembling with rage and tears streaming down her face. You're hurting those babies. Let them go. Someone stop her. But no one did. Because she was crew. Because she had authority. Because passengers weren't sure what they were allowed to do. Devin came running from the other aisle. Rebecca, let them go right now. Stay out of this. You're assaulting children. I'm maintaining order. You're committing a crime. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and professional. Flight attendants, please report to the cockpit immediately. Rebecca ignored it. She was too far gone now. Too deep into her rage, her humiliation, her need to prove she was right and they were wrong. She dragged the 3 girls all the way to the back of the plane. Other passengers reached out, trying to comfort the girls, but Rebecca batted their hands away. Don't touch them. They're being relocated for disciplinary reasons. They're children, someone screamed. Rebecca stopped in the middle of the aisle, still gripping all 3 girls. They were crying so hard they could barely breathe. Simone was making a sound between gasping and sobbing that didn't sound human. The entire cabin could see them. Everyone had stopped what they were doing. The plane had gone almost silent, except for the girls crying and the hum of the engines. Rebecca looked around at all the phones, all the witnesses, all the judgmental faces. She could have stopped. She could have let go. She could have apologized. But she didn't. Instead, she made a choice that would destroy her entire life. She stood the 3 girls up in the aisle, made them face her. 3 crying, bleeding, terrified 8-year-old children in purple dresses with gold beads in their hair. She looked down at them, and then with deliberate, calculated cruelty, she leaned forward and spat directly into Simone's face. Time stopped. The glob of saliva hit Simone's cheek and hung there for a moment before sliding down slowly. Simone's eyes went wide with shock and horror. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The cabin went absolutely silent. Not a breath, not a movement, just horrified silence. Then it exploded. "Oh my God, did she spit on that baby? I'm going to be sick. That's assault. That's assault of a child." Mrs. Crawford let out a sound like a wounded animal and collapsed back into her seat, sobbing. Jeffrey Davidson was on his phone again, his voice shaking. "She just spat on one of the children. Yes, spat on her. On an 8-year-old's face. I have it on video. Multiple people have it on video." Rebecca released the girls. They collapsed together in the aisle, holding each other purple dresses and gold beads and tears and blood and spit. Rebecca stood over them, her chest heaving, her face twisted with satisfaction. She had won. She had shown them. She had put them in their place. She addressed the cabin, her voice ringing with righteousness. "You want to record something? Record this. These people always cause problems. Someone needs to teach them their place. Someone needs to remove your hands from my daughters, now." The voice cut through the chaos like a surgical blade, cold, precise, absolutely authoritative. Rebecca froze mid-sentence. Her hands, which had been gesturing, fell to her sides. She turned slowly, robotically toward first class. The color drained from her face in seconds, white as paper. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. A hand manicured and powerful, wearing a platinum wedding ring with a diamond that caught the cabin light, pushed the first-class curtain aside. Then the figure emerged. Vivian Carter, 38 years old, 5'11", wearing a charcoal Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than Rebecca made in a month. Burgundy Louis Vuitton heels clicking on the floor with each step, diamond studs that caught the light, hair in an elegant updo, face like carved mahogany, beautiful and terrible in controlled fury. She walked down the aisle. Every eye in the cabin was on her. The silence was absolute, except for her footsteps and the girls crying. Rebecca couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just stood there watching this woman approach, like watching your own execution. Vivian reached row 24. Her daughters saw her. "Mama," Naomi sobbed. "Mama," Simone whispered. "Mama," Jasmine cried out. Rebecca's knees actually buckled. She caught herself on a seat back. Vivian knelt down in the aisle, ignoring her expensive suit, and gathered her 3 daughters into her arms. Her voice was soft, gentle, everything it hadn't been a moment ago. "I'm here, babies. Mama's here. You're safe now." She pulled out a silk handkerchief, the kind that probably cost $100, and gently, tenderly wiped the spit from Simone's face. "I'm here," she repeated. "Mama's got you." She held them for a long moment, letting them cry against her, whispering things only they could hear. Then she stood up, turned to face Rebecca, and the temperature in the cabin dropped about 20 degrees. Vivian looked at Rebecca the way a scientist looks at a specimen under a microscope. Detached, analytical, seeing everything. "What's your name?" Her voice was quiet, controlled, somehow more terrifying than if she'd been screaming. Rebecca's mouth moved. No sound came out. "I asked you a question." Each word was precisely enunciated. "What is your name?" "R. Rebecca Thornfield." Her voice cracked. "Employee number 4782. How long have you worked for Skyridge Airlines?" "Rebecca." 8 years. 8 years. Vivian took a step closer. "Do you know how many complaints have been filed against you in those 8 years?" Silence. 14, Vivian said. 14 complaints. Would you like to know what they all have in common? Rebecca was shaking now. Every single one. Vivian continued, her voice still quiet, still controlled, was filed by a passenger of color. 11 black passengers. 2 Asian, 1 Latina, 14 complaints. And you're still here. Do you know why? Rebecca shook her head. Because the people above you didn't care. Vivian took another step. Because complaints from those people didn't matter. Because this airline's culture allowed you to thrive. Because racism was profitable and changing it was expensive. Another step. Do you know who I am? Rebecca started to cry. You're the new CEO. Say my name. Vivian Carter. That's right, Vivian Carter, CEO of Skyridge Airlines. As of 9:08 this morning, I own this company. Every plane, every route, every employee. She gestured to her daughters, including you. She paused, letting that sink in. Which means you work for me, which means I sign your paycheck, which means your employment, your livelihood, your entire career is in my hands. Rebecca's knees buckled again. This time she did fall, catching herself on the armrest. And those 3 little girls you dragged down this aisle. Vivian continued, her voice getting harder. The ones you verbally abused, physically assaulted, the one you spat on. She stepped aside so Rebecca had a clear view of the triplets. Those are my daughters, Naomi Simone and Jasmine Carter, the children you called nothing, the children you assumed were on welfare, the children whose dignity you tried to destroy. Rebecca fell to her knees completely, hands clasped like she was praying. Please, please, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know they were... Stop right there. Vivian's voice cracked like a whip. Did you just apologize because they're my daughters? Not because what you did was wrong, but because you got caught doing it to the wrong children. Rebecca couldn't answer. Let me be very clear, Vivian said, her voice carrying to every corner of the cabin. If my daughters had been someone else's children, if they had been poor kids on a charity program like you assumed, would what you did be acceptable? No, but there is no but. There is no scenario, no universe, no reality where your behavior was acceptable. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry about who their mother is. You're sorry you got caught. Vivian turned to address the entire cabin, her voice projecting with natural authority. My name is Vivian Carter. I'm the new CEO of Skyridge Airlines. I apologize to every passenger on this flight for what you witnessed. This is not the airline I'm building. This is exactly the culture I bought this company to dismantle. Passengers started speaking up. Jeffrey stood. Ma'am, I'm Jeffrey Davidson, attorney. I witnessed everything. I have recordings. I'll testify. Mrs. Crawford raised her hand. I saw it all. That woman tortured those babies. I got video, someone called out. Multiple angles. Same here, another voice added. One by one, at least a dozen passengers volunteered their evidence, their testimony, their willingness to ensure justice was served. Vivian nodded, her face composed. Please send all videos, recordings, and statements to this email address. Her assistant Kendra appeared from first class, handing out business cards with contact information. Vivian turned back to Rebecca, who was still on her knees. Stand up. Rebecca struggled to her feet, using the armrest for support. You told my daughters their mother didn't care. You told them nobody was coming. You told them they were nothing. Vivian stepped close, almost nose to nose. Her whisper somehow carried to every corner of the silent cabin. You were wrong on all 3 counts. She stepped back, her voice returning to normal volume. Captain Morrison, are you listening? The cockpit door opened. Captain James Morrison, 55 years old with 30 years of experience, stepped out. Yes, Miss Carter. Rebecca Thornfield, employee number 4782, is relieved of duty effective immediately. She is to be confined to the rear galley under supervision until we land, at which point she will be escorted off this aircraft by law enforcement. Is that clear? Crystal clear, ma'am. Rebecca started crying harder. Please, I have bills. I have rent. I need this job. I'll lose everything. Vivian's face was stone. My daughters needed safety. They needed respect. They needed dignity. You took that from them. And now I'm taking everything from you. It was a mistake. Please, it was just a mistake. No. Vivian's voice was final. A mistake is spilling coffee. What you did was deliberate, calculated cruelty. You saw 3 black children alone and defenseless, and you decided to make them suffer. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. And now you live with the consequences." She turned to Kendra. "Call ahead to NYPD. I want officers waiting at the gate. Multiple officers. Charges assault of minors, 3 counts. Battery, 3 counts. Child endangerment, 3 counts. I want her arrested the moment we deplane." Kendra was already typing on her phone. "Yes, Miss Carter. Also contacting legal team to begin civil proceedings." Rebecca was hysterical now. "You're going to have me arrested, Sue? Me, I can't afford a lawyer. I can't—" "You should have thought of that," Vivian said coldly, "before you spat on my daughter." She gestured to 2 male flight attendants who had been watching from the galley. "Escort her to the rear. She doesn't speak to passengers. She doesn't use her phone. She doesn't leave until law enforcement boards. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." They took Rebecca by the arms and led her away. She was still crying, still pleading, but nobody was listening anymore. The cabin erupted in applause. Vivian held up her hand. "Please don't applaud. What happened today should never have happened. The fact that it did means I have work to do." The applause died down, but the respect in every face was unmistakable. Vivian knelt back down by her daughters, checking them over with gentle hands. Naomi's bloody knee, Simone's tear-stained face, Jasmine's bruised arm. "We need to get you cleaned up," she said softly. "Come with me." She led them toward first class, and as she passed Devin in the aisle, she stopped. "You're Devin Price." Devin looked shocked. "Yes, ma'am." "You tried to stop her. Multiple times. I saw everything. You were watching every second." Vivian's expression softened slightly. "Thank you for trying to protect my daughters. I wish I could have done more." "You did enough. And I'd like to discuss a new position with you when we land. Director of Passenger Experience. I need people who speak up, people who care, people like you." Devin's eyes went wide. Yes, absolutely. Thank you." Vivian nodded and continued toward first class with her daughters. The cabin was buzzing now. Passengers were texting, calling, posting videos. Within 15 minutes, footage of Rebecca spitting on Simone would have 10,000 views. Within an hour, 1 million. By the time they landed, it would be national news. Rebecca Thornfield sat in the rear galley, surrounded by flight attendants who wouldn't look at her, realizing that her entire life had just ended at 37,000 feet. And in first class, Vivian Carter held her 3 daughters close, whispering promises about justice and consequences and love that could move mountains. The plane flew on toward New York, carrying triumph and destruction in equal measure. Patricia had the first aid kit open before Vivian even reached first class with her daughters. She had pulled down the privacy screen, creating a cocoon of safety away from the rest of the cabin. Vivian settled Naomi on the wide leather seat, examining her bleeding knee with gentle fingers that trembled slightly despite her controlled demeanor. "It's not too deep," she said softly. "But it's going to hurt for a while, baby." "I don't care about the hurt," Naomi whispered. "Mama, she said we were nothing. She said you didn't care about us." Vivian stopped cleaning the wound. She looked up at her daughter, and for the first time since she'd walked down that aisle, her composure cracked. Tears filled her eyes. "Listen to me. All 3 of you, look at me." The triplets gathered close, their faces still wet with tears, their purple dresses rumpled and stained. "You are everything," Vivian said, her voice breaking. "You are my heart walking around outside my body. You are brilliant and strong and beautiful and worthy of every good thing this world has to offer. That woman lied to you because she's broken inside, but her brokenness does not define your worth. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Mama," they said together. But Simone was crying again. "Why does she hate us?" Simone sobbed. "We didn't do anything to her. We were polite. We said please and thank you. Why does she hate us?" Vivian pulled Simone onto her lap. "Expensive suit be damned. She doesn't hate you specifically, baby. She hates herself. And when people hate themselves when they feel powerless and small, they try to make others feel smaller so they can feel big for a moment. It's not about you. It was never about you." "But she spit on me." Simone touched her cheek where Vivian had wiped away the saliva. "On my face, Mama, like I'm garbage." "I know." Vivian's voice was fierce now. "I know what she did, and she will never, ever do it again to you or to anyone else. I promise you that." Patricia approached with warm washcloths and bandages. "Miss Carter, if I may." Vivian nodded, letting Patricia help clean Naomi's knee while she held Simone and stroked Jasmine's hair. Jasmine had gone very quiet, which worried Vivian more than tears would have. "Jazz, baby, talk to me." Jasmine's voice was small. "I tried to fight her mama. I tried to protect Nay and Simi, but I couldn't. I wasn't strong enough." "Oh, my warrior." Vivian gathered Jasmine close, too. "You were strong enough. You stood up. You fought back. That's what brave looks like. Brave doesn't mean you win every battle. Brave means you keep fighting even when you're scared." "I was so scared," Jasmine admitted. "I know. I was scared, too." All three girls looked up at her in surprise. "You were scared, Mama?" "Terrified," Vivian admitted. "I was sitting up here watching everything on my computer, watching that woman hurt you, and I had to force myself to stay in my seat. Do you know how hard that was? Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run back there and protect you. But I knew if I did that too soon, she'd just do it to someone else's children next week. So I waited. I documented. And I let you be hurt so I could make sure she never hurts anyone again." Her voice broke completely. I'm so sorry. I didn't come sooner." "You came exactly when you needed to," Naomi said, wise beyond her 8 years. "You let us prove we're strong. And then you showed her she was wrong about everything." Vivian held them all close, breathing in the smell of their hair, feeling their hearts beat against her. These 3 perfect souls that she had brought into the world and would die to protect. Patricia finished bandaging Naomi's knee and discreetly stepped away, giving them privacy. "Mama," Simone's voice was tentative, "what's going to happen to her, to Miss Rebecca?" "She's going to be arrested when we land. She's going to be charged with assault of minors. She's going to lose her job, and I'm going to sue her personally for everything she's done." "Will she go to jail?" Jasmine asked. "I don't know," Vivian answered honestly. "That's up to a judge and jury, but she'll face consequences, real ones, I promise you that." "Good," Jasmine said fiercely, "because what she did was evil." "It was," Vivian agreed, "and evil doesn't get to win, not on my watch." In the rear galley, Rebecca sat on a fold-down jump seat flanked by 2 male flight attendants who wouldn't speak to her or look at her. She could hear the murmur of conversation from the cabin, could see passengers still recording on their phones, still texting, still sharing what they'd witnessed. Her own phone was in her purse, confiscated on the new CEO's orders. She was completely cut off, alone with her thoughts and the growing realization of what she'd done. "I need to call my union rep," she said. Her voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. The flight attendant on her left, Marcus, finally spoke. "You'll get your phone call when we land, after the police process you." "This is illegal detention." "You assaulted 3 children in front of 47 witnesses," Marcus said flatly. "You spat on an 8-year-old's face. You want to talk about illegal?" Rebecca's hands were shaking. "I was maintaining order. Those kids were disruptive. I was doing my job." The flight attendant on her right, Thomas, actually laughed, a bitter, disbelieving sound. "I've worked with you for 5 years, Rebecca. I've watched you target passengers of color for 5 years. I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself I was imagining things. But I wasn't imagining anything, was I? I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do." Thomas looked at her with disgust. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. And now everyone else knows too. There's video everywhere. You're going to be famous, Rebecca, just not the way you wanted." She tried to process what he was saying. Video. Everywhere. Her face, her actions, her words. All of it captured and spreading across the internet like wildfire. "How bad is it?" she whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward her without a word. Twitter. The top trending topic had Skyridge flight attendant. Under it, the video. Someone had already edited together clips from multiple angles. Rebecca grabbing the girls, Rebecca dragging them, Rebecca spitting on Simone, and then Vivian Carter's face as she emerged from first class, the moment of recognition, the destruction written in her eyes. 3 million views in 25 minutes. Rebecca felt bile rise in her throat. "Oh, God." "Yeah," Marcus said, putting his phone away. "Oh, God is right." "People are calling for you to be arrested," Thomas added. "They're sharing your full name, your employee number. Someone already found your Facebook page and your address." "They can't do that," Rebecca said weakly. "They already did. Welcome to the internet, Rebecca. You're canceled." She put her head in her hands. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had just been doing her job. She had just been maintaining order. Those kids had been disruptive and entitled, and someone needed to teach them their place. Except they hadn't been disruptive, and she hadn't been maintaining order. And deep down in a place she didn't want to look, Rebecca knew the truth. She had targeted those 3 little girls the moment she saw them because they reminded her of everything she hated about herself. They were confident, loved, protected. They had a mother who cared about them. They had resources. They had dignity. And Rebecca had wanted to take it all away, because if she couldn't have those things, why should they? The realization made her want to vomit. Devin appeared at the galley entrance. He looked at Rebecca with something that might have been pity if it wasn't mixed with so much disappointment. "The CEO wants to speak with you," he said. Rebecca's head snapped up. "No, I don't want to talk to her." "It wasn't a request," Devin said. "She's coming back here. You can choose to speak with her or not, but she's coming." Vivian Carter appeared behind Devin. She had changed somehow in the last 30 minutes. She looked taller, more powerful, more dangerous. "Give us the galley," she said to Marcus and Thomas. 3 minutes. They left without question. Vivian stood there looking at Rebecca, really looking at her, seeing all of her. "You and I aren't that different," Vivian said finally. Rebecca's head shot up. "What?" "I read your file, your whole file. You came from nothing, didn't you? Working-class family, single mother who worked multiple jobs. You had to fight for everything. Nothing was handed to you." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "How did you—" "Because that's my story too. My mother cleaned houses. My grandmother picked cotton in Mississippi. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Scholarships and student loans and 3 jobs to afford rent. I know what it's like to feel powerless, to feel invisible, to be treated like you don't matter." She knelt down, getting eye level with Rebecca. "So I understand the anger. I understand the resentment. I understand looking at people who seem to have it easier and feeling like it's not fair. But here's where we diverged, Rebecca. Here's where we became different people." She paused. "When life beat me down, when people treated me like I didn't belong, when I was humiliated and dismissed, I made a choice. I chose to build something. I chose to rise. I chose to use my pain as fuel for my purpose. I said to myself, when I have power, I'm going to use it to protect people like me, to lift them up, to make sure nobody else has to feel the way I felt." Her voice got harder. "You made a different choice. You chose to become exactly like the people who hurt you. You chose to punch down instead of lift up. You chose cruelty because it made you feel powerful for a moment. You chose to take your pain and inflict it on the most vulnerable people you could find. Children, Rebecca. You chose to hurt children." "I'm sorry," Rebecca sobbed. "I'm so sorry." Are you sorry for what you did? Or are you sorry you got caught?" Rebecca couldn't answer, because she didn't know. She genuinely didn't know. Vivian stood up. "You asked me earlier what's going to happen to you. Here's what's going to happen. You're fired. Effective immediately. Your final paycheck will be mailed to your address. Your benefits end today. When we land, you'll be arrested and charged with 3 counts of assault on a minor 3 counts of battery and 3 counts of child endangerment. You'll be processed. You'll spend the night in jail, maybe longer depending on bail." She paused. "And then I'm going to sue you, personally, not just the airline. You. For every penny you have and every penny you'll ever make. I'm going to make sure that for the rest of your life, every time you apply for a job, every time someone Googles your name, they see what you did. They see you spitting on an 8-year-old's face. They see you dragging 3 little girls down an airplane aisle. They see who you really are when you think nobody's watching." Rebecca was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "Please, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live?" Vivian's voice had no sympathy. "The same way my ancestors did when they had nothing. The same way every person you've ever looked down on has done. You'll figure it out, or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore." She turned to leave, then stopped. "One more thing. You told my daughters they were nothing. You told them they'd learn their place. You were right about one thing. They did learn something today. They learned that their mother will always protect them. They learned that bullies don't win. They learned that dignity cannot be taken, only given away. And they learned that sometimes karma comes in expensive heels. She walked away, leaving Rebecca collapsed in the galley, destroyed. Back in first class, Vivian was met by a concerned Patricia. "Miss Carter, there's one more issue." "What?" "Richard Huntington. The passenger who took one of your daughter's seats and made racist comments. He's trying to deplane Airli, claiming he has a connecting flight. He's quite insistent." Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Is he now? Where is he?" "Row 18C. Vivian walked back into the economy cabin. Passengers saw her coming and a path cleared automatically. She radiated power. She stopped at row 18C, where Richard Huntington was gathering his things, preparing to rush off the plane the moment they landed. "Mr. Richard Huntington III, Vivian said. Richard froze, turned, recognized her from the earlier confrontation, and went pale. "Stand up," she said. Richard stood slowly. "You took my daughter's seat. You made a child cry because you felt entitled to something that didn't belong to you. You used the phrase, 'you people,' to an 8-year-old. Do you remember that? That was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean—" "You meant every word," Vivian cut him off. "And you allied yourself with Rebecca Thornfield. You approved of her actions. You nodded at her when she was abusing my children. I saw it. The cameras saw it. Multiple witnesses saw it." Richard tried to puff up his chest. "Now look here, I'm a paying customer. I have rights. You can't just—" "I'm not just anything, Mr. Huntington. I'm the CEO of this airline, and I absolutely can refuse service to anyone who harasses other passengers. As of this moment, you're banned from flying Skyridge Airlines for life." "You can't do that." "I already did. You'll receive formal notification by end of business today, but that's not all. My legal team will be contacting you regarding a civil suit for harassment, intimidation of minors, and discrimination. I suggest you start calling lawyers." Richard's face went from pale to red. "You can't sue me for sitting in a seat. I'm a paying customer. I have rights." "You have the right to treat people with basic human dignity," Vivian said. "You failed to do that. Now you face the consequences. And Mr. Huntington, before you threaten to sue me back or claim this is unfair, I want you to know something. I'm worth $3.2 billion. I have a legal team of 47 attorneys. I can afford to litigate this case for the next 20 years without noticing the expense. Can you—" Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I thought not," Vivian said. "Enjoy your flight. It's your last one with us." She walked away, leaving Richard standing there humiliated while other passengers tried to hide their smiles. Jeffrey Davidson approached Vivian as she headed back to first class. "Miss Carter, may I speak with you for a moment?" "Of course." "I'm Jeffrey Davidson, corporate attorney. I witnessed everything that happened today. I have detailed documentation, voice recordings, and video. I'd like to offer my services pro bono to ensure both Rebecca Thornfield and Richard Huntington face full legal consequences." Vivian shook his hand. "I appreciate that, Mr. Davidson. I already have a legal team, but I'd welcome your testimony and documentation." "You'll have it." He handed her his card. "I also want you to know what you did today, revealing yourself at that moment, using your power to protect not just your daughters, but to expose systemic discrimination that took incredible courage." "It took incredible restraint not to reveal myself sooner," Vivian admitted. "I had to watch my babies suffer so I could document everything. That's going to haunt me." "They're going to be okay," Jeffrey said gently. "Look at them." Through the first-class curtain, the triplets were visible sitting together eating cookies that Patricia had provided, talking quietly. Damaged, yes. Traumatized, certainly. But together, loved, protected. "Thank you," Vivian said. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into New York JFK. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts." Vivian returned to first class, settling in with her daughters. "How are you girls doing?" "Better," Naomi said. "Mama, are we really going to sue that man who took my seat?" "Yes." "Good," Naomi said firmly. "He was mean." "He was—" Vivian agreed. "And mean people need to learn that their actions have consequences." Simone was quiet, picking at her cookie. "Mama, when we get off the plane, will we have to see Miss Rebecca again?" "No, baby. The police will take her off through a different exit. You won't have to see her." "What about the other kids?" Jasmine asked suddenly. The ones she was mean to before us, the ones in the 14 complaints. Vivian looked at her daughter with pride. What about them? Are you going to help them too? Are you going to make it right for them? I'm going to try, Vivian said. I'm going to find every person who filed a complaint against her and offer to settle their cases. I'm going to implement new training for all staff. I'm going to create a passenger bill of rights that explicitly protects vulnerable travelers. I'm going to make sure this never happens again. That's good, Jasmine said, satisfied, because it shouldn't happen to anybody. No, Vivian agreed, it shouldn't. The plane descended through clouds, the New York skyline coming into view. Vivian held her daughters close, feeling the weight of what had happened and the responsibility of what came next. Her phone buzzed. A text from her head of legal. NYPD ready. 6 officers at the gate. Media is already there. CNN, NBC, local news. The story is everywhere. Press wants a statement. Vivian typed back. I'll give a statement after my daughters are safely away from cameras. She looked at the triplets. When we land, there are going to be a lot of people. Reporters, cameras, police. It might be scary and overwhelming, but Patricia is going to take you through a private corridor straight to our car. You won't have to deal with any of it. Okay. What about you, Mama? Naomi asked. I have to talk to the police, give a statement to the media, handle some business, but Kendra will be with you the whole time, and I'll meet you at home in a few hours. We can wait with you, Simone offered. No, baby, you've been through enough today. I need you to go home, take a bath, put on comfortable clothes and rest. We'll talk more tonight. And the plane touched down smoothly at JFK at 5:43 p.m., 4 minutes ahead of schedule, despite everything that had happened. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. As they taxied to the gate, Vivian could see through the window. Police cars, news vans, crowds of people with phones out. The pilot's voice came over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We have a special deplaning procedure today. Law enforcement will be boarding first. The plane came to a complete stop. The seatbelt sign dinged off. 6 NYPD officers boarded through the front door, serious-faced and professional. The lead officer, Detective Maria Rodriguez, approached Vivian in first class. Miss Carter, I'm Detective Rodriguez. We're here to place Rebecca Thornfield under arrest. She's in the rear galley, Vivian said, under supervision. We'll need statements from you and your daughters. My daughters are 8 years old and have been traumatized enough for one day. I'll give you my statement. I have video evidence from multiple angles, and there are at least 15 passengers with their own recordings who are willing to testify. Detective Rodriguez nodded. We'll do our best to minimize additional trauma, but Miss Carter, this is going to be a high-profile case. The video is already viral. There's going to be media attention. I'm aware. That's part of the point. I want everyone to see what happens when you abuse children. I want it to be so public, so visible that it becomes a deterrent. Understood. The officers moved toward the back of the plane. Passengers stayed in their seats watching recording. Rebecca was read her rights in the galley, her wrists cuffed behind her back, her face streaked with tears and makeup. As they led her down the aisle toward the exit, she kept her head down, unable to look at anyone. But as she passed row 24, where the triplets' empty seats still showed signs of the struggle, blood spots on one seat, juice stains on another, she stopped. I'm sorry, she whispered, though the girls weren't there to hear it. I'm so sorry. Keep moving, an officer said. They led her off the plane down the jetway into the terminal, where cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, and her life as she knew it ended completely. In the private corridor, Patricia was guiding the triplets and Kendra toward a waiting car. The girls could hear the commotion from the main terminal, but couldn't see it. Is she going to jail, Miss Patricia? Simone asked. Yes, sweetheart, for tonight at least, maybe longer. Good, Simone said softly. Then, is that bad? That I'm glad she's going to jail? Patricia knelt down. No, honey, it's not bad. What she did was wrong, and you're allowed to want justice. That's different from wanting revenge. Justice means appropriate consequences. That's okay to want. Simone nodded, satisfied. They reached the car. Kendra helped the girls inside, buckling them in, making sure they were comfortable. Your mama will be home in a few hours, Kendra assured them. She just has to talk to some people first. We know, Naomi said. Mama has to fix things so it doesn't happen to other kids. Exactly right, Kendra said. Back in the terminal, Vivian stood in front of a wall of cameras and microphones. Detective Rodriguez had taken her statement. Now it was time for the world to hear directly from her. My name is Vivian Carter, CEO of Skyridge Airlines. Today, my 8-year-old daughters were verbally harassed, physically assaulted, and humiliated by an employee of this airline. An employee with 14 previous discrimination complaints. An employee who should have been terminated years ago but wasn't because the previous leadership didn't care. She paused, letting that sink in. I bought Skyridge Airlines 3 weeks ago specifically to change the culture of discrimination that had been allowed to flourish. Today's incident proves that culture change is desperately needed. What happened to my daughters happens to travelers of color every single day. It happens to children. It happens to families. It happens to people who have no power, no voice, no recourse. Her voice got stronger. That ends today. Effective immediately, Skyridge Airlines is implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Any employee with a pattern of complaints will be investigated and, if warranted, terminated. We're implementing mandatory anti-bias training. We're creating third-party oversight for all passenger complaints. We're establishing a passenger bill of rights that explicitly protects vulnerable travelers. A reporter shouted a question. Miss Carter, some people are saying you used your daughters as bait to expose this employee. How do you respond? Vivian's eyes flashed. I respond by saying that's exactly what I did, and I would do it again. Because if I had revealed myself immediately, Rebecca Thornfield would have behaved differently. She would have been polite and professional to my daughters, and then she would have gone right back to abusing the next black family that couldn't fight back. By documenting her true behavior, by letting the world see who she really is when she thinks nobody powerful is watching, I've ensured she'll never hurt another child again. Was it painful? Yes. Did my daughters suffer? Yes. Do I wish there had been another way every single second? But there wasn't. And now the world knows exactly what happens on airplanes every single day to people who don't have CEOs for mothers. Another reporter. What do you say to people who think you're being too harsh, that everyone deserves a second chance? Rebecca Thornfield had 14 chances, 14 complaints over 8 years. She had chance after chance after chance, and every single time she chose to continue abusing passengers of color. Today, she spat on my 8-year-old daughter's face. She dragged 3 children down an airplane aisle. She told them they were nothing. So no, I don't think I'm being too harsh. I think I'm being exactly harsh enough. The questions continued for 20 minutes. Vivian answered every single one with precision and power. She didn't back down. She didn't apologize. She owned every decision she'd made. Finally, she held up her hand. Last question. Miss Carter, what would you say to other parents whose children have experienced similar treatment? Vivian looked directly into the camera. I would say this. Document everything. Record everything. Report everything. And if the airline doesn't take you seriously, if they dismiss your complaint, if they tell you you're being too sensitive or misunderstood, what happened, call my office. Give me your story. Because I'm going through every single complaint filed with Skyridge over the last 5 years. And if there's been an injustice, I'm going to make it right. That's my promise. She walked away from the cameras toward the private exit where her own car was waiting. In the car, she finally let herself break. Tears streamed down her face. Her hands shook. The adrenaline that had been holding her together for the last 3 hours drained away, leaving her hollow and exhausted. But she had done it. She had protected her daughters. She had exposed the rot. She had sent a message that would echo across the entire industry, and tomorrow she would wake up and start rebuilding an airline that treated every passenger with dignity. But tonight, she was going home to hold her babies and tell them again and again how much they were loved. The car pulled away from JFK, leaving behind the chaos and the cameras and the wreckage of Rebecca Thornfield's life. Just as Vivian thought, doesn't always feel good, but it's still necessary, always. The car pulled up to Vivian's brownstone in Brooklyn at 7:23 p.m. The girls had been home for over an hour, and Vivian could see lights on in every window. She sat in the driveway for a moment, her hands still trembling before forcing herself to get out. Kendra opened the door before Vivian could reach for her keys. "They've been waiting for you. They wouldn't eat dinner until you got home." Vivian found her daughters in the living room, all three in matching pajamas sitting close together on the couch. They launched themselves at her the moment she walked in. "Mama." She held them all at once, breathing them in, feeling their warmth, their life, their safety. "I'm home, babies. Mama's home." They clung to her for a long time, nobody speaking, just holding on. Finally, Simone pulled back. "Mama, are you okay? You look tired." "I am tired," Vivian admitted. "Today was hard for all of us." "Did the police take Miss Rebecca to jail?" Jasmine asked. "They did. She's been charged with assault and child endangerment. She'll see a judge tomorrow morning." "Good," Jasmine said fiercely, then looked uncertain. "Is it bad that I still want her to be punished, even though she said she was sorry?" Vivian sat down, pulling them all close. "She said she was sorry when they were walking her off the plane," Naomi explained. "She stopped by our seats and said she was sorry." "How did that make you feel?" The girls looked at each other. "I don't know if I believe her," Naomi said slowly. "I think she was sorry she got caught, not sorry for what she did." "That's very perceptive, baby." "I'm still angry," Simone whispered. "Does that make me bad?" "No, sweetheart. Anger is appropriate right now. What happened to you was wrong. You're allowed to be angry about it. You're allowed to want consequences. That's not bad. That's healthy." When will the anger go away?" Simone asked. "I don't know," Vivian answered honestly. "Healing takes time, different for everyone. But I promise you, we're going to get you the help you need. I've already scheduled appointments with Dr. Williams for all three of you." "The nice therapist who helped when Grandma died?" Jasmine asked. "Yes, baby. She's going to help you process what happened today." "What about you, Mama?" Naomi asked. "Are you going to see Dr. Williams too?" Vivian smiled, despite everything. "Yes, because watching what happened to you today hurt me too, and I need help processing that." They ate dinner together, the girls picking at their food. Vivian didn't push. Trauma killed appetite. She knew that. At 8:47 p.m., Vivian's phone started ringing, her head of legal. "I need to take this," she told the girls. "Finish your dinner." She stepped into her office. "Talk to me, David." "Rebecca Thornfield is being held without bail. The DA is taking this seriously. Multiple felony charges. And Vivian, there's something else. 5 former passengers have already come forward with their own stories about her. We're talking similar patterns. Racist comments, deliberate service failures. One woman says Rebecca spilled hot coffee on her child on purpose. Another says Rebecca called her son a thug." Vivian's jaw tightened. "Get me their contact information, all of them. I want to reach out personally." "Already sending it." Also, the union released a statement. They're not defending her. They're saying her actions violated the code of conduct, and they support your decision to terminate. Smart move on their part. The media coverage is unprecedented. Every major network. International news. #justice. For the Carters is trending #1 worldwide. The video has 40 million views and counting. Vivian closed her eyes. 40 million people had watched her babies being hurt. "Vivian, you still there?" "I'm here." "What else?" "Richard Huntington's attorney contacted us. He wants to settle. He's offering a public apology and a donation to a children's charity of your choice." "Not enough. I want him to complete mandatory diversity training. I want him to volunteer 200 hours with underprivileged youth. And I want a written apology not to me, but to my daughters. A real one, where he explains what he did wrong and why it was wrong." "He's not going to like that." "I don't care what he likes. Those are my terms. He can accept them, or we'll see him in court." "Understood. One more thing. We've received over 3,000 emails from passengers sharing their own experiences of discrimination on airlines. Not just Skyridge. Every major carrier. People are coming forward with stories going back decades." Vivian sat down heavily. 3,000. And climbing. This is bigger than one flight attendant, Vivian. You've opened something. "I know," she said quietly. "I know." And she hung up and sat in her office for a moment processing. Then her phone rang again. Her mother. "Vivian Carter, I just watched the news. Why didn't you call me? Why did I have to find out my grandbabies were assaulted on CNN?" "Mama, I'm sorry, everything happened so fast. I'm coming over, right now. Those girls need their grandmother. Mama, it's almost 9. I don't care what time it is. I'm 15 minutes away. She hung up. Vivian returned to the living room. The girls were curled up together, watching a movie, but she could tell they weren't really paying attention. Grandma's coming over, she announced. That got their attention. Grandma right now. She saw the news. She's worried about you. Exactly 14 minutes later, Vivian's mother, Dorothy Carter, burst through the door. She was 63 years old, 5'3", and the fiercest woman Vivian had ever known. "Where are my babies?" Dorothy demanded. The triplets ran to her. She held them all, examining them like she was checking for broken bones. "Let me see. Naomi, your knee. Simone, your face. Jasmine, your arm. Who did this? Who hurt my grandbabies?" "It's okay, Grandma." Naomi tried to reassure her. "Mama made it right." "Made it right. Made it right. I saw that video. I saw that woman spit on my Simone's face. Made it right doesn't begin to cover what needs to happen." "She's in jail, Grandma," Simone said quietly. "Good. She should stay there, forever." Dorothy looked at Vivian. You let this happen." Vivian felt like she'd been slapped. "Mama, you sat in first class and watched while your babies were tortured." The girls immediately jumped to their mother's defense. "Grandma, no B, Mama had to document everything. She was protecting us and other kids." But Dorothy wasn't listening. She was looking at her daughter with anger and disappointment. "I raised you better than this. I raised you to protect family first." "Mama, please. You use them as bait. Your own daughters." Vivian felt tears burning. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't hate myself for it? I sat there watching that woman hurt my babies, and I had to force myself not to move, because if I did, she'd just do it to someone else next week. I sacrificed my children's immediate safety for the long-term safety of thousands of other children. Don't you think that's killing me?" The room went silent. Dorothy looked at her daughter for a long moment. Then her expression softened. "Oh, baby, come here." Vivian walked into her mother's arms and finally broke completely. Great heaving sobs that she'd been holding back for hours. "I watched her hurt them," Vivian sobbed. "I watched her make them cry, and I just sat there. What kind of mother does that?" "The kind who's trying to change the world," Dorothy said softly. "The kind who's brave enough to let her babies hurt so that other babies won't have to. The kind I raised." "It was the hardest thing I've ever done." "I know, baby, I know." They held each other while the triplets watched, learning that even their strong, powerful mother sometimes needed to be held by her own mother. At 10:15 p.m., after Dorothy had checked the girls one more time, read them a story, and finally left with promises to return tomorrow, Vivian tucked her daughters into bed, but Simone couldn't sleep. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby." "Why did Miss Rebecca hate us so much? Was it just because we're black?" Vivian sat on the edge of the bed. That was part of it. But it was also because she hates herself. She came from nothing just like I did. She worked hard, just like I did. But somewhere along the way she made different choices. Instead of using her pain to build something, she used it to hurt others. And when she saw you three confident and loved and protected, it reminded her of everything she doesn't have. So she tried to take it away from you. "That's sad," Simone said. "It is sad. It's also not an excuse. Adults are responsible for their choices no matter what pain they're carrying." "Do you think she'll ever be sorry? Really sorry?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. But that's her journey, not ours. Our job is to heal and move forward." In the hallway, Naomi called out, "Mama, can you come here?" Vivian found Naomi sitting up in bed, her notebook open. "I'm writing down everything that happened," Naomi explained, "so I don't forget." "Baby, you don't need to do that. We have videos. We have documentation." "Not for court," Naomi said. "For me. So I remember that I was brave, that we all were brave, that we didn't let her break us." Vivian's heart swelled. "You were incredibly brave." "Mama, are you going to fire other people like Miss Rebecca?" "If they've been hurting passengers, yes." "Good, because nobody should have to feel the way we felt today." In Jasmine's room, Vivian found her youngest daughter staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep, Jazz." "I keep seeing her face. When she was dragging us, she looked happy, Mama, like she enjoyed hurting us. I know, baby. How can someone enjoy hurting kids? We're just kids. Some people are so broken inside that the only way they can feel powerful is by making others feel powerless. It's not about you. It was never about you. It felt like it was about us. I know. And that's the cruelest part. She made you feel targeted, singled out, attacked. But the truth is she would have done that to any black children who crossed her path that day. It's not about who you are, it's about who she is. I don't want to be scared of flight attendants now. You won't be. Most flight attendants are good people doing a hard job. Miss Rebecca was the exception, not the rule. And now, she can't hurt anyone else. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. Mama, when I grow up, I want to be like you. I want to be powerful enough to protect people. Vivian kissed her forehead. You already are, baby. You protected your sisters today. You fought back. That's power. At 11:47 p.m., Vivian finally collapsed on her own bed. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. CNN wants an exclusive interview. Good morning, America. The View, Ellen. Everyone wants to talk to you. Vivian typed back, no interviews for 1 week. Family needs privacy to heal. After that, I'll consider it. Another text, this one from Devin Price. Miss Carter, I don't know if you remember me from the flight, but I wanted to thank you for seeing that I tried to help, for giving me a chance. I won't let you down. Vivian smiled and typed back, you already proved yourself, Devin. The job is yours. Report Monday 9 a.m. Her phone buzzed again. An unknown number. This is Mrs. Helen Crawford from Flight 447. I can't stop thinking about your beautiful daughters. Please tell them Mrs. Though. Crawford is praying for them and that they were the bravest little girls I've ever seen. Vivian felt tears prick her eyes again. She forwarded the message to the girls' group chat with a note. From the nice grandmother on the plane. She's thinking of you. At 2:34 a.m., Vivian was still awake scrolling through social media. The hashtag had evolved. It wasn't just justice for the Carters anymore. Now, it was #end airline discrimination, #Black Travelers Matters, #Protect All Passengers. People were sharing their own stories. A man who was pulled off a plane for speaking Arabic on the phone to his mother. A woman whose hijab was inspected 3 times at security. A family removed from a flight because a passenger claimed they looked suspicious. Thousands of stories. Decades of abuse, all coming to light because of what happened to her daughters. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but then saw it was her head of security. Thomas, it's 2:30 in the morning. I know. But you need to know this. Someone doxed Rebecca Thornfield. Her home address, her social security number, her bank account information. It's all over Twitter. Vivian sat up. That's illegal. I know, but people are angry. There are threats, death threats. Someone posted her apartment building address, and people are talking about showing up there. Get her protective detail, now. You want to protect her? After what she did. I want justice, not vigilante violence. Get her protection. And contact Twitter. Get that information taken down. Yes, ma'am. Vivian couldn't sleep after that. She got up, made tea, and sat in her office going through emails. Passenger complaints. So many complaints. People who had been dismissed, ignored, told they were too sensitive, accused of playing the race card. She started responding, personally, one by one. Dear Mrs. Patterson, I read about your experience on Flight 832 in 2019. I believe you. I'm sorry our airline failed you. I'd like to make this right. At 4:47 a.m., she was still typing when Simone appeared in the doorway. Mama, why are you awake? I could ask you the same thing, baby. I had a bad dream. Miss Rebecca was chasing us, and we couldn't get away. Vivian held out her arms, and Simone climbed into her lap, even though she was getting too big for it. It was just a dream. She can't hurt you anymore. Promise. Promise. They sat together in the quiet darkness, mother and daughter both processing trauma in their own ways. Mama, when you were little, did anyone ever treat you the way Miss Rebecca treated us? Vivian thought about lying about protecting her daughter from that knowledge, but she'd built her relationship with her daughters on honesty. Yes, she said quietly, many times. What did you do? Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I got angry. Sometimes I just went numb. But every single time I promised myself that when I had power, I would use it to make sure other people didn't have to feel that way. And now you have power. Now I have power, Vivian agreed. So you're keeping your promise. I'm trying, baby. I'm trying. At 6:12 a.m., the sun started rising. Vivian had been awake for 26 hours straight. Her phone rang again. Her PR director. The morning shows are all leading with your story. Fox News is criticizing you for using your daughters as bait. MSNBC is calling you a hero. The hashtag has 52 million engagements. What's the overall sentiment? 87% supportive, 11% critical, 2% trolls. Vivian, you've tapped into something huge. People are angry. They want change. Then we'll give them change. Schedule an all-hands meeting with every Skyridge employee for this Friday, every single one. If they're not on a flight, they attend in person. If they're flying, they dial in. I want everyone to hear directly from me. That's 3,000 people. I don't care if it's 30,000, make it happen. At 7:23 a.m., Naomi and Jasmine woke up and found their mother and sister asleep together in the office chair. They didn't wake them. They just covered them with a blanket and went to make breakfast together. At 8:45 a.m., Vivian woke to the smell of pancakes and her phone ringing off the hook. The girls had made breakfast, slightly burned, but made with love. "Mama, you need to eat," Naomi said firmly. So she ate surrounded by her daughters, feeling the weight of everything that had happened and everything that was coming. Her phone buzzed. A text from the DA. Rebecca Thornfield is pleading not guilty. Her attorney is claiming she was defending herself from aggressive children. We need to prepare for trial. Vivian showed the text to the girls. Miss Rebecca is saying she was defending herself from you three. Jasmine's mouth dropped open. We were sitting there coloring. How is that aggressive? It's not. She's lying. But that's what happens sometimes. People lie to avoid consequences. Will people believe her? Simone asked, her voice small. No, baby, because we have video from 4 different angles showing exactly what happened. Her lies won't work. At 10:17 a.m., Vivian's legal team arrived for an emergency meeting. They spread out across her dining room table with laptops and files. The criminal case is solid, David said. But Vivian, you need to prepare the girls. If this goes to trial, they'll have to testify. They're 8 years old. I know, but they're the victims. Their testimony will be crucial. Vivian looked at her daughters, who were listening from the living room doorway. Girls, come here. We need to talk about something. They sat down at the table, suddenly looking very small. If Miss Rebecca doesn't admit what she did, there will be a trial, a court case, and you might have to tell a judge what happened. In front of her, Simone's voice shook. Yes, in front of her and lawyers and maybe other people. I'll do it, Naomi said immediately. If it means she can't hurt other kids, I'll do it. Me too, Jasmine added. Simone was crying. I don't want to see her again. I don't want to be in the same room as her. I know, baby, I know. We're going to try very hard to make sure you don't have to. We're going to push for a plea deal. But if it comes to trial, we'll prepare you. Dr. Williams will help you, and Mama will be right there the whole time. At 11:52 a.m., Vivian's phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Miss Carter, this is Jennifer Walsh. I was the other flight attendant on Flight 447. Vivian's voice went cold. I know who you are. You enabled Rebecca's behavior. I know, and I'm calling to say I'm sorry, and to tell you something you need to know. I'm listening. Rebecca has a group, other flight attendants who share her views. They communicate on a private Facebook group. They call themselves the Standards Committee. They share stories about passengers they've targeted. They celebrate making people uncomfortable. They compare notes on how to get away with discrimination. Vivian's blood ran cold. How many members? 43, across 5 different airlines. Send me everything. Screenshots, names, every detail you have. I will. But Miss Carter, I need immunity. If I'm a whistleblower, I need protection. You'll have it. But Jennifer, why now? Why are you coming forward? Because I saw what she did to your babies, and I realized I've been part of something evil. I've been enabling racism because it was easier than standing up. But I can't anymore. I just can't. Send me everything you have, today. My legal team will contact you about immunity. At 1:34 p.m., the information started arriving. Screenshots of the Facebook group. Vivian read them with growing horror. Successfully made a Muslim family so uncomfortable they asked to be reseated. Manager bought my version. Achievement unlocked. Accidentally spilled 3 drinks on a black passenger who complained about my service. Whoops. Pro tip. Always believe white passengers over passengers of color. Management always sides with us anyway. 43 flight attendants, 5 airlines, years of coordinated discrimination. Vivian looked at her legal team. We're not just fixing Skyridge, we're fixing the entire industry. Get me the CEOs of every airline that employs these people, conference call, tomorrow morning, and contact the FAA. This is a federal civil rights issue. At 3:15 p.m., Vivian's mother returned with groceries and love. She made the girls their favorite dinner while Vivian worked. At 5:47 p.m., Rebecca Thornfield's attorney called. My client wants to make a statement. I'm listening. She wants to plead guilty. To everything. She doesn't want to put those children through a trial. Vivian was stunned. Why the sudden change? Because she spent last night in jail and realized what she's become. She wants to accept responsibility. If she pleads guilty, I want the maximum sentence. I want her to serve time, real time. She's willing to accept that, in exchange for your agreement not to pursue civil damages that would bankrupt her for life. Vivian thought about it. No, she pleads guilty. She serves her time, and she pays. Not enough to destroy her, but enough to hurt. $50,000, divided equally between my 3 daughters' college funds, and a public apology. A real one, where she admits what she did and why it was wrong. I'll present it to her. At 7:22 p.m., the answer came back. Rebecca agreed to everything. Vivian told the girls over dinner. They had mixed reactions. I'm glad we don't have to testify, Simone said. I wanted to face her, Jasmine said. I wanted to tell her she didn't break us. You'll still get to, Vivian said, at sentencing. Victims get to make impact statements. You can tell the judge how this affected you. Good, Jasmine said, because I have a lot to say. At 9:03 p.m., Vivian received an email from Richard Huntington's attorney. He had agreed to all her terms: diversity training, volunteer hours, written apology. The apology arrived at 9:47 p.m. Dear Naomi, Simone, and Jasmine, I am writing to apologize for my behavior on Flight 447. I took your seat because I felt entitled to it. I made racist comments because I carry prejudice in my heart. I allied myself with someone who was abusing you because it was easier than standing up for what was right. None of this is your fault. All of it is mine. I am committing to do the work to become a better person. You deserved better from me, and I'm sorry I failed you. Sincerely, Richard Huntington. Vivian showed it to the girls. Is it good enough? She asked. It's a start, Naomi said. At 10:56 p.m., Vivian finally tucked her daughters into bed for the second night. They were calmer, safer, beginning to heal. Mama, Simone said, thank you for protecting us. Always, baby, always. And Mama, Jasmine added, thank you for protecting all the other kids, too. Vivian kissed them goodnight and closed their doors, then returned to her office, where 3,000 more emails waited. She started typing again. Because the work wasn't finished. It was only beginning. Let me structure this carefully to maintain tension while bringing resolution. 1 week later, Vivian stood in front of the bathroom mirror at 5:47 a.m., staring at the dark circles under her eyes. She had slept maybe 15 hours total in the past 7 days. The emails kept coming, 4,000 now, 5,000, stories of trauma that made her want to scream and break things. Mama, you look tired, Naomi said from the doorway. Vivian turned. You're up early, baby. Couldn't sleep. Today's the big meeting, right? The one where you talk to all the employees? Yes, every single Skyridge employee, 3,000 people. Are you nervous? Terrified, Vivian admitted. Naomi came closer. Mama, you changed the world this week. You can talk to 3,000 people. Vivian pulled her daughter into a hug. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. At 7:15 a.m., Vivian's legal team arrived. David looked exhausted, too. "The Facebook group information went to the FAA at midnight," he said. "They're launching a formal investigation into all 43 flight attendants. Delta United American Southwest, all of them are scrambling. Their PR departments are in full crisis mode." "Good. They should be scrambling. How many of those 43 have been fired so far?" 17. As of this morning. The others are suspended pending investigation. "Not fast enough." "Vivian, you can't control what other airlines do." "Watch me. I'm calling every CEO personally today, after my staff meeting." At 8:34 a.m., Dr. Williams arrived for the girls' therapy session. Vivian sat in the waiting room listening to Simone cry through the door and felt her heart break all over again. When the session ended, Dr. Williams asked to speak with Vivian privately. "They're doing remarkably well considering, but Vivian Simone is having nightmares every night. Naomi is having anxiety attacks about flying. Jasmine is carrying rage that she doesn't know how to process. They need time. They need patience. They need to not be pushed into being symbols of strength before they're ready. I'm not pushing them. The sentencing hearing is in 3 days. They've all volunteered to give victim impact statements. Are you sure they're ready?" I asked them that exact question. They all said yes. "And if they change their minds at the last minute, then they don't speak. Their healing comes first, always." Dr. Williams nodded. "Good, because they're watching you, Vivian. They're learning how to process trauma by watching how you process it. And right now, you're processing it by working 20-hour days and not sleeping." "I'll sleep when this is fixed." "It's never going to be fixed. Not completely. You can't heal every wound in the world. You can only heal your own and help others heal theirs." Vivian knew she was right, but she couldn't stop. Not yet. At 10:47 a.m., Vivian arrived at the conference center where the all-hands meeting would be held. 3,000 employees, some in person, some via video conference from airports around the country. Devin Price met her at the door. He had started his new position 3 days ago and was already proving invaluable. "Everyone's here," he said. "But Vivian, there's tension. Some employees are angry. They think you're painting everyone with the same brush as Rebecca. Let them be angry. We're going to have an honest conversation." She walked onto the stage at exactly 11:00 a.m. 3,000 faces looked back at her. Some supportive, some skeptical, some openly hostile. She didn't use notes. She spoke from the heart. "Good morning. My name is Vivian Carter, and I'm the CEO of this airline. A week ago, one of our employees assaulted my 3 8-year-old daughters on Flight 447. You've all seen the video. The whole world has seen it. And I want to be very clear about something. What happened on that flight was not an isolated incident. It was the result of a toxic culture that has been allowed to flourish in this company for years." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I know some of you are thinking, that's not fair. I would never do what Rebecca did." And you're right. Most of you wouldn't. Most of you are good people doing a hard job. But here's the question I need you to ask yourselves. When you saw colleagues treating passengers badly, what did you do? When you heard racist comments in the break room, did you speak up? When you witnessed discrimination, did you report it? Silence. Because here's what I learned this week. Rebecca Thornfield wasn't working alone. She was part of a private Facebook group with 42 other flight attendants across multiple airlines. They called themselves the Standards Committee. They shared tips on how to discriminate without getting caught. They celebrated making passengers of color uncomfortable. They turned racism into a game. The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, denial. "I have screenshots." Vivian continued, her voice cutting through the noise. "I have years of messages. I have evidence that this culture exists not just at Skyridge, but across the entire industry. And it ends today." She pulled up images on the screen behind her. Messages from the Facebook group. Flight attendants celebrating successful discrimination. The crowd went silent again, this time with horror. 6 of those 43 worked for Skyridge. 6 of your colleagues were actively, deliberately discriminating against passengers and bragging about it online. They've all been terminated as of this morning. More gasps. But termination isn't enough. We need systemic change. So here's what's happening. Effective immediately, every Skyridge employee will complete mandatory anti-bias training. Not a 1-hour online course, real training. Multiple days, with testing, with consequences for failure. She could see resistance on some faces. Second, we're implementing a new complaint system with third-party oversight. When a passenger files a discrimination complaint, it doesn't go to your supervisor anymore. It goes to an independent review board. And if you're found to have discriminated, you're done. First offense termination. No warnings, no second chances. A voice called out from the crowd. That's not fair. What if someone's lying? What if a passenger makes a false accusation? Then the evidence will show that, Vivian said. We're installing more cameras, better audio. Everything will be documented. Truth will protect you. Lies won't hurt you. But discrimination. Discrimination will end your career here. Every single time. Another voice. You're creating a culture of fear. No, Vivian said sharply. I'm creating a culture of accountability. Fear is what passengers of color feel when they board a plane wondering if they'll be treated like human beings. Fear is what my daughters felt when a flight attendant dragged them down an aisle and spit in their face. That's fear. This is consequences. At 12:23 p.m. during the Q&A portion, a flight attendant stood up, young white, trembling. Miss Carter, I saw Rebecca harass passengers before, multiple times, and I never reported it. I feel sick about it now. What should I do? Vivian's expression softened slightly. What's your name? Emily. Emily Rodriguez. Emily, the fact that you're asking that question means you're already doing something. Here's what I need from you and everyone else in this room. Going forward, if you see discrimination, you speak up, immediately. You document it, you report it, and if your supervisor doesn't take it seriously, you escalate to my office directly. My personal email is being distributed to every employee today. Use it. Another employee stood. But what if speaking up puts our jobs at risk? Then you document that too, and you sue, because retaliation for reporting discrimination is illegal, and I will personally fund your legal defense if it comes to that. The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, Vivian had answered 87 questions. Some employees left angry, many left thoughtful. A few left in tears, realizing they'd been complicit in a system they never examined. Devin approached her afterward. That was intense. That was necessary. Devin, I need you to set up one-on-one meetings with every employee who seems resistant. I want to understand why they're resistant. Some might be hiding their own discrimination. Others might just be scared of change. I need to know which is which. That's going to take weeks. Then it takes weeks. This is the most important work we're doing. At 3:47 p.m., Vivian returned home to find her daughters doing homework at the kitchen table. Normal, routine, healing. How was the meeting, Mama? Jasmine asked. Hard, but good. How was school? The girls had returned to school 2 days ago. It had been difficult. Other kids had seen the video. Some were supportive. Others were cruel, in the way only children can be. A boy called Simone. That girl who got spit on, Naomi said quietly. Vivian's hands clenched. What did you do? I told him that Simone is brave and strong, and he wishes he had half her courage, Naomi said. Then I told the teacher. Good girl, what did the teacher do? She made him apologize, but he didn't mean it. Probably not, but you stood up for your sister. That's what matters. Simone looked up from her math homework. Mama, I don't want to be that girl who got spit on for the rest of my life. You won't be baby, I promise. People have short memories. Next month there will be a new story. Next year new kids at school won't even know. But the video is online forever. It is, but you get to decide what that means. You can let it define you, or you can use it as proof of your strength. You survived something terrible. You testified about it. You helped change an entire industry. That's your story, not what was done to you, but what you did with it. At 6:15 p.m., Vivian received a call from the judge's clerk. Rebecca Thornfield's sentencing hearing had been moved up. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Vivian gathered the girls. The sentencing is tomorrow. Are you still sure you want to give your statements? All three nodded. Okay, let's practice. Dr. Williams said it helps to rehearse what you'll say. Naomi went first. She stood in the living room facing her mother and sisters like they were the court. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 8 years old. On Flight 447, Rebecca Thornfield hurt me and my sisters. She made us feel small and scared and like we didn't matter. She made my sister cry. She made my knee bleed. She spit on my sister's face. What she did was wrong, and I want the judge to know that it's still hurting us. I have nightmares. My sister is scared to fly. We're in therapy. But we're also strong, and we're going to be okay. But she shouldn't get to hurt anyone else. That's all I want to say. Vivian had tears in her eyes. That was perfect, baby. Simone went next. She was shaking. I don't think I can do it, Mama. When I think about being in the same room as her... Then don't, Vivian said immediately. You don't have to do this. But I want to. I want her to know she didn't break me. She already knows that. You don't owe her anything. I owe it to myself. At 8:52 p.m., after the girls were in bed, Vivian received an unexpected email from Rebecca Thornfield's attorney with a letter attached. Miss Carter, my client asked me to pass this along. She doesn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted you to know. Vivian almost deleted it, but curiosity won. The letter was handwritten. Dear Miss Carter, I know I have no right to write to you. I know nothing I say can undo what I did. But I need you to know that I've spent every minute of the last week thinking about your daughter's faces, about Simone's tears, about the way Naomi tried to protect her sisters, about Jasmine fighting back even though she was scared. I saw their humanity and I tried to crush it because I'm broken. I've been broken for a long time. I blamed the world. I blamed passengers. I blamed everyone except myself. But I was wrong. I was cruel. I was racist. And I'm ashamed. I'm pleading guilty because your daughters shouldn't have to face me again. I'm accepting whatever sentence the judge gives because I deserve it. And I'm writing this because I need you to know that they didn't deserve any of what I did. They were perfect. They were innocent. They were beautiful. And I tried to destroy that because it reminded me of everything I'm not. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I hope someday your daughters can heal from what I did to them. Sincerely, Rebecca Thornfield. Vivian read it 3 times. Then she printed it and put it in a folder marked, "For the girls when they're older." Because forgiveness was their choice, not hers. And they weren't ready yet. Maybe they never would be, and that was okay too. At 9:47 a.m. the next morning, Vivian walked into the courthouse with her 3 daughters. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, security held them back. Inside, Rebecca Thornfield was already seated at the defense table. She looked terrible, thinner, older, defeated. When the girls walked in, she started crying. The judge entered at 10:02 a.m. The Honorable Patricia Martinez, 60 years old, known for being fair but firm. We're here for sentencing in the matter of the state versus Rebecca Thornfield. The defendant has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of assault on a minor, 3 counts of battery, and 3 counts of child endangerment. Before I impose sentence, I understand the victims wish to make statements. Naomi stood first. She walked to the podium too short to see over it until someone adjusted the microphone down. Her voice was steady, strong. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 8 years old. What Rebecca Thornfield did hurt me. It hurt my sisters. It made us feel like we were less than other people just because of our skin color. But it also taught us something. It taught us that we have to stand up for ourselves, that we have to be strong, that we can't let anyone take our dignity. She tried to break us. She failed, and I think she should go to jail so she can't try to break anyone else. The judge nodded. Thank you, Naomi. That was very brave. Jasmine went next. She was angrier. I wanted to fight her. When she grabbed my sisters, I tried to fight her, but I was too little. I couldn't protect them, and that made me so angry. I'm still angry, but my mama says anger is okay if you use it right. So I'm using it to make sure everyone knows what she did. I'm using it to help change the rules so flight attendants can't hurt kids anymore. And I'm using it to say she should get the maximum sentence, because what she did was evil. Simone was last. She almost didn't go. She sat frozen in her seat for 30 seconds. Then Vivian whispered, "You don't have to, baby." That's what gave her courage. The choice, the power to decide for herself. She walked to the podium. Her voice was quiet but clear. She spit on me, On my face, like I was garbage, and I felt like garbage for a long time after. But I'm not garbage. I'm Simone Carter. I'm 8 years old. I like poetry, and my sisters, and my mama. And what she did doesn't get to define who I am. I define who I am, and I choose to be kind, I choose to be strong, and I choose to say she was wrong about everything. When Simone returned to her seat, Vivian pulled her close and whispered, "I have never been more proud of you." The judge looked at Rebecca. "Does the defendant wish to address the court?" Rebecca stood shaking. "I just want to say to those 3 beautiful girls that I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can't undo what I did. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to fix what's broken in me, and trying to make sure that somehow, some way, something good comes from this terrible thing I did." Judge Martinez looked at the sentencing guidelines, looked at the girls, looked at Rebecca. "Miss Thornfield, what you did was heinous. You targeted 3 children because of their race. You abused your position of authority. You caused lasting trauma. The prosecution has recommended 2 years in prison. The defense has asked for probation and community service. I've reviewed everything, the videos, the witness statements, the psychological evaluations, and I've made my decision." The courtroom went silent. "I'm sentencing you to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. During probation, you will complete 500 hours of community service working with underprivileged children. You will complete intensive therapy addressing your racial bias, and you will be permanently banned from working in any position of authority over vulnerable populations. Additionally, you will pay $50,000 in restitution to the victims." Rebecca sobbed. Her attorney put a hand on her shoulder. "I want to be clear," Judge Martinez continued. "This sentence is not just about punishing you. It's about sending a message. Discrimination will not be tolerated. Abuse of power will not be tolerated. And harming children in the name of maintaining order will absolutely not be tolerated. You will serve every day of this sentence. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Rebecca whispered. They led her away in handcuffs. In the hallway afterward, reporters swarmed again. Vivian gave a brief statement. "Justice was served today. My daughters got to face their abuser and speak their truth. Rebecca Thornfield will serve time for what she did. But this was never just about one woman. This was about changing a system that allowed her behavior to flourish, and that work continues." At 2:34 p.m. back in her office, Vivian received calls from the CEOs of Delta United and American Airlines. All 3 had the same message: they were implementing similar reforms: mandatory training, third-party oversight, zero-tolerance policies. "It's about time," Vivian told each of them, "but I'll be watching. We all will." At 4:47 p.m., Devon knocked on her office door. "The numbers are in from this week. Passenger bookings are up 18%. Customer satisfaction surveys are the highest they've ever been. People want to fly with an airline that takes discrimination seriously." "Good, because we're just getting started." 1 month later, Vivian stood in front of the Skyridge Board of Directors presenting quarterly results. Every metric was up: revenue, bookings, customer satisfaction, employee morale among those who embraced the changes. "I told you diversity and accountability were good for business," she said. "Any questions?" One board member raised his hand. "What about the employees we lost, the ones who quit rather than complete anti-bias training?" "We lost 47 employees total. We hired 63 new ones, all of whom were excited to work for an airline that treats people with dignity. I'd call that a win." 6 months later, the Triplets stood on stage at a conference on child safety and travel. They were 9 now, taller, more confident, still healing, but stronger. Naomi spoke first. "What happened to us was terrible, but we want other kids to know that you can survive terrible things. You can speak up, you can get help, and you can use your pain to make the world better." Jasmine was next. "Don't let anyone make you feel small. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong. You belong everywhere. And if someone tries to hurt you, tell someone. Keep telling until someone listens." Simone finished. "We're not victims anymore. We're advocates. We're using our story to help other kids, and that makes what happened to us mean something." The audience of parents and child safety advocates gave them a standing ovation, 1 year later, the FAA released new regulations for the airline industry. Mandatory training, independent oversight, passenger protections, explicitly including anti-discrimination provisions. They called it the Carter Regulations, named after 3 little girls who changed everything. Vivian received a letter from Mrs. Crawford, the grandmother from the plane. "Dear Vivian, I think about your girls often. I pray they're healing. I want you to know that because of them, I've become an advocate too. I volunteer with an organization that helps families report discrimination in travel. Your daughters inspired a 70-year-old woman to fight for justice. That's powerful. Please tell them Mrs. Crawford is proud of them." And Vivian showed the letter to the girls. They decided to frame it. 5 years later, the triplets were 13. The incident was part of their history, but no longer defined their present. Naomi wanted to be a lawyer. Jasmine wanted to be an activist. Simone wanted to be a poet. All 3 wanted to use their voices to protect others. They did interviews occasionally when asked, always together, always supported by their mother. "Do you forgive Rebecca Thornfield?" a reporter asked during one interview. The girls looked at each other. They had discussed this many times in therapy. "We're working on it," Naomi said. "Forgiveness is a process, not a moment." "We don't have to forgive her to heal," Jasmine added. "We can heal for ourselves." "And maybe someday we will forgive her," Simone said softly. "But that's our choice. Nobody else gets to tell us when or how." Rebecca Thornfield served her full